Blood covered Mason's hands. Again, it never washed away anymore. No matter how many times he scrubbed them raw beneath freezing water, he still saw silver eyes staring back at him. Nyra, always Nyra. The Forbidden's kingdom remained buried in darkness beneath endless storms while Fiona's witches moved silently through ancient stone halls. Dead kingdom. Dead magic. Dead gods. And yet somehow, the Alpha King sitting alone beside the fireplace looked more dangerous than all of them combined. Mason leaned back slowly in their massive chair while one terrified she-wolf knelt between, his legs trying desperately to please him. Wrong scent. Wrong touch. Wrong female. His jaw tightened instantly. The female whimpered softly when his fingers tangled violently in her hair. Look at me. Fear filled her eyes immediately. At least fear still felt real. Not like the madness growing inside his chest every day. You know what the problem is? The female shook slightly. No, Alpha. Mason laughed quietly. None of you are her. The room fell silent. Even the witches nearby avoided looking directly at him now, because everyone noticed it. The obsession. The instability. The way he spoke about Nyra, like she already belonged beside him. The thought twisted pleasantly through his chest again. The female beneath him tried touching him softer. Careful. Like calming a dangerous animal. Wrong mistake. Mason shoved her away instantly. Hard enough that she hit the stone floor with a cry. Get out. She scrambled away terrified. Because the second another female touched him, all he could think about was silver fur beneath moonlight. Nyra standing beside the Lycan king, choosing him. The memory nearly made him black out with rage again. The chamber doors suddenly opened. Fiona entered slowly dressed entirely in black. Cold eyes instantly moved toward the destroyed furniture scattered across the room. You're getting worse. Mason ignored her completely. Dark eyes remained fixed on the flames ahead. Fiona stepped closer carefully. You haven't slept in 3 days. Still nothing. Because sleep only brought dreams of her. Nyra screaming Draven's name. Nyra wrapped in another male's arms. Nyra looking at the Lycan king with devotion instead of fear. The jealousy nearly poisoned him alive. She transformed for him. The quiet words filled the room heavily. Fiona's expression darkened immediately. Hatred flashed across her face. Yes, the witch bloodline inside her practically trembled whenever Moonborns were mentioned now. She should have died before awakening. Mason finally looked toward her slowly. Dangerous mistake. Because something inside his eyes no longer looked entirely sane anymore. You keep saying that. Fiona crossed her arms tightly. Because creatures like her destroy kingdoms. A dark smile spread slowly across Mason's mouth. Good. Silence followed. Cold silence. Then Fiona stepped closer again. You almost died because of her. Mason leaned back slowly in the chair. Blood stained the bandages wrapped around his chest beneath black clothing. Draven nearly ripped him apart. The memory should have filled him with hatred. Instead, it filled him with envy. Because nobody had ever fought for Mason like that. Nobody had ever looked at him the way Draven looked at Nyra, like breathing depended on her existence. The obsession twisted deeper. Worse, she looked beautiful beneath the full moon. Fiona's expression twisted with disgust instantly. You sound addicted. Mason smiled again. Completely unhinged now. I am. The honesty of it unsettled even Fiona briefly. Then suddenly, candlelight flickered across the chamber while dark magic slowly curled around Fiona's body. Mason watched silently from the chair beside the fireplace. Obsessed dark eyes never blinking. The transformation happened slowly. Silver eyes. Dark hair. Soft lips. Nyra, for one dangerous second, his breathing actually stopped. Fiona stepped closer wearing Nyra's face perfectly now. Almost perfectly. because no magic could copy her scent. And gods, Mason noticed immediately. Wrong. Still wrong. Fiona climbed slowly into his lap anyway, while hatred burned beneath stolen silver eyes. You keep looking at her like she's a goddess. Mason barely listened. His hands already gripped her waist possessively. Trying to imagine. Trying to pretend. Trying to erase the memory of Draven touching what belonged to him. Fiona leaned down slowly against his throat. You want her that badly? A dark laugh escaped Mason softly. You have no fucking idea. The obsession in his voice made something ugly twist inside Fiona instantly. Because even now, even while wearing Nyra's face, he still looked through her instead of at her. Mason's hand tangled violently in her hair before pulling her closer against him. Desperate. Angry. Broken. Fiona kissed him hard anyway while dark magic flickered across the chamber walls. Toxic. Violent. Two monsters using each other for entirely different reasons. Mason buried his face against her neck, trying to imagine moonlight and silver fur instead. Nyra beneath him. Nyra in his bed. Nyra screaming his name instead of the Lycan kings. The jealousy nearly poisoned him alive. Fiona noticed the exact second another female entered his mind again. Hatred flashed violently through her stolen silver eyes. Mason leaned closer until his forehead rested against hers. Dark eyes filled with obsession. One day, his voice dropped dangerously quiet. She choose me. Fiona stared at him silently. And deep down, for the first time, even she started fearing how far he would go to make that happen. Fiona, Nyra haunted everything. The castle. The darkness. Him. Fiona stood silently near the massive mirror while candlelight flickered across her stolen silver eyes. Nyra's eyes. The reflection made hatred twist violently inside her chest. Moonborn. Cursed bloodline. Abomination. Her ancestors spent centuries hunting creatures like Nyra through burning forests and moonlit kingdoms. Witches died because of moonborn queens. Entire covens erased from history. And somehow, one survived. Worse, Mason became obsessed with her. The realization poisoned Fiona more every day. She slowly touched the illusion magic curling across her skin. Nyra's face stared back at her perfectly now. Dark hair. Soft lips. Silver eyes. Beautiful. Fiona hated it. Because now she understood exactly why males lost their minds over that creature. The chamber doors suddenly opened. Mason entered without looking at her immediately. Black clothes. Blood on his knuckles again. Violence practically clung to him lately. Fiona watched his eyes slowly lift toward her reflection. And there it was. That look. Obsession. Raw. Hungry. Completely insane. For one dangerous second, he actually stopped breathing. Not because of Fiona, because he saw Nyra. Hatred twisted sharply through Fiona's chest. You're pathetic. Mason barely reacted. Dark eyes stayed locked on the reflection. You almost fooled me this time. The quiet roughness in his voice sounded addicted. Fiona stepped closer slowly. Maybe I should take that as a compliment. Still nothing. Because he wasn't truly seeing her. Never her. Only the female who ruined him. Fiona moved directly in front of him now. Close enough to touch. You keep dreaming about her. Mason finally looked down at her. Dangerous. Broken. Obsessed. Yes, the brutal honesty made rage flare instantly inside Fiona. How does it feel? Her voice lowered coldly. To know she chose another monster over you. Something dark flickered across Mason's expression immediately. Jealousy. Possession. Violence. Fiona wanted him angry. Wanted him unstable. Wanted the obsession to destroy him slowly from the inside. Because if Nyra brought kingdoms to ruin, then Mason would help burn them. Fiona's fingers slid lightly across his chest while illusion, magic shimmered beneath her skin. You know she's probably in his bed right now. Mason grabbed her throat instantly. Not enough to hurt. Enough to warn. The obsession in his eyes turned terrifying immediately. Stop talking. Fiona smiled coldly despite the grip tightening slightly. She's probably letting him touch every part of her you'll never have. Mason snapped. The fireplace exploded violently behind them. Dark rage rolled through the chamber hard, enough to shake the walls. Fiona wanted the monster awake. Because monsters destroyed worlds. And Nyra deserved to watch hers burn. Mason suddenly shoved Fiona hard against the mirror. Glass cracked instantly behind her. Obsessive dark eyes searched Nyra's stolen face desperately. Like he hated himself for wanting it. Like he couldn't stop anyway. Do you know what the worst part is? His voice sounded rough now. Almost tortured. She still looks at him the way she used to look at me. The jealousy in his voice felt poisonous. Fiona studied him silently. And deep down, she realized something horrifying. Mason wasn't simply obsessed anymore. No, he was becoming willing to destroy anyone Nyra loved. Just to watch her look at him again. The mate bond became unbearable at night. Not painful. Worse, addictive. I stood barefoot near the massive bedroom, windows while snowstorms covered the lichen, kingdom beyond the mountains. Moonlight spilled silver across my skin. Behind me, Draven watched silently from the bed. I could feel it through the bond. The attention. The possessiveness. The way his wolf reacted every time I moved. Gods, sometimes I genuinely thought this male might lose his mind over me. You're staring again. A low amused sound left him softly. You like it when I stare. Unfortunately. He wasn't wrong. Heat curled low through my stomach instantly. The mate bond reacted immediately. Because the second desire touched the connection, Draven's emotions slammed into mine twice as hard. Need. Possession. I sucked in a quiet breath. The massive bed shifted softly behind me. Then suddenly, warm hands wrapped around my waist from behind. Strong. Familiar. Safe. My eyes closed briefly the second Draven pressed against my back. Gods, this male felt like addiction now. His mouth brushed slowly beneath my ear. You're thinking too loud again. The deep roughness in his voice nearly melted my brain. I tilted my head back slightly against his shoulder. You can hear my thoughts now. A dangerous smile touched his mouth softly against my skin. No. His hands slowly slid lower along my hips. But I can feel every reaction. Heat exploded through me instantly. Draven growled quietly. The possessive satisfaction rolling through the bond. I turned slowly in his arms until golden eyes locked onto mine beneath moonlight. Beautiful. Dark hair messy from sleep. Black tattoos disappearing beneath loose pants hanging low on his hips. Gods help me. The wolf inside me purred softly. Mine. Draven's expression darkened instantly. He felt that. One large hand slid beneath my thighs suddenly before lifting me, effortlessly against him. A startled breath escaped me. Draven carried me toward the bed without breaking eye contact once. Predator. My predator. My back hit soft blankets moments later while the massive LYCAN'S settled above me. Warm, heavy, protective. The mate bond pulsed violently now. Draven brushed, one hand slowly through my hair while his gaze searched my face carefully. Still checking. Still reassuring himself I was truly here. You scared me. A rough honesty in his voice wrapped painfully around my chest. The memory hit instantly. Silver chains. Mason. Draven screaming my name. My fingers slid softly against his jaw. I came back. Golden eyes closed briefly. Emotion crashed through the bond so hard it nearly hurt. Relief. Love. Devotion. Draven lowered his forehead gently against mine. You're never leaving me again. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, warmth spread through my chest. Because somehow, I knew I'd burn kingdoms for him too. Draven noticed immediately. His mouth curved softly. What? I swallowed quietly. Nothing, liar. The familiar word wrapped around me warmly now. Draven's hand slowly slid higher beneath the thin fabric covering my thigh. My breathing instantly changed. Golden eyes darkened dangerously. You react so beautifully for me. Gods, the way this male spoke nearly destroyed all rational thought. The mate bond burned hotter. Need surged violently between us now. Not only his, mine too. Draven kissed me slowly at first, like he wanted to savor every second. Then deeper, possessive, hungry. The wolf inside me practically melted beneath the feeling of him. His hand tightened against my waist while the kiss grew rougher. Needier, like days apart had nearly broken him. A soft sound escaped me before I could stop it. Draven growled low against my mouth instantly. The sound sent heat straight through my body. This male knew exactly what he did to me. His lips slowly dragged down my throat, while his hands explored my body like he still couldn't get enough. Never enough. Nyra slept tangled against my chest. Mine, the possessive thought hit instantly the second I looked down at her. Soft black hair spilled across my skin, while one bare thigh rested over mine beneath tangled blankets. I was becoming addicted to simply touching her. The realization should have concerned me. Instead, it only made the beast inside me more possessive. My fingers brushed slowly along her back while I listened to her breathing steady in sleep. Safe, still here, not stolen from me. Relief twisted painfully through my chest again. I hated how close I came to losing her. The memory still poisoned me every night. Silver chains, her screaming, Mason touching her. A dangerous growl rumbled low through my chest instantly. Nyra shifted softly against me in response. The wolf inside her immediately reacted to my emotions now. Another problem. Because lately, our bond had become terrifyingly deep. If I felt rage, she felt it. If she feared something, I sensed it instantly. And God's help anyone who caused that fear. Nyra slowly blinked awake against my chest moments later. Sleepy silver eyes lifted toward mine. Beautiful little mate. Her expression softened immediately after seeing me. That simple reaction nearly ruined me every fucking time. You're growling again. Her voice sounded rough from sleep. Warm. Mine. I brushed dark hair slowly away from her face. You were dreaming. Nyra's expression darkened slightly. Mason? The name alone made violence twist through my chest instantly. She noticed. The mate bond practically pulsed with my hatred now. Nyra's fingers slid slowly against my chest, grounding me, calming me. No female should have had this kind of power over a Lycan king. He's far away. The soft reassurance in her voice only made something protective tighten harder inside me, because she still comforted me. Even after everything, I lowered my forehead slowly against hers. You shouldn't have to reassure me. Silver eyes searched mine quietly. But you do the same for me. I pulled her closer instinctively. Nyra smiled softly against my throat. Dangerous. Because now she knew exactly what her smiles did to me. The mate bond warmed immediately. Need slowly followed. I felt the exact second her body reacted too. My gaze darkened instantly. Heat flickered across her face immediately afterward. Gods, I loved watching her realize what she did to me. My hand slid slowly along her thigh beneath the blankets. The sharp inhale she gave nearly destroyed my remaining self-control. There, the rough amusement in my voice made her glare softly. You're insufferable. A low laugh escaped me. And you're beautiful. Nyra rolled her eyes lightly. But the mate bond betrayed her instantly. Affection. Warmth. Love. The possessive instinct slammed hard through me again. I kissed her before I could stop myself. Slow at first, then rougher the second she kissed me back. Need flooded violently through the bond immediately. Her fingers tangled softly in my hair while I pulled her fully beneath me against the bed. Warm skin. Soft sounds. Moonlight across silver eyes. I could spend centuries ruined by this female. Nyra's breathing quickened when my mouth brushed slowly down her throat. The wolf inside me reacted possessively to every sound she made. Mine, mine, mine. A quiet moan escaped her lips when my hand tightened against her waist. The sound nearly made me lose my fucking mind. I pulled back slightly just to look at her. Flushed cheeks. Swollen lips. Silver eyes darkened with desire. Beautiful. Completely fucking beautiful. Nyra looked at me like she already knew exactly how dangerous she'd become to me. And somehow, that only made me want her more. Then suddenly, a violent knock echoed through the chamber doors. I froze instantly. Annoyance crashed through me hard enough to make the walls tremble slightly. Nyra immediately buried her face against my chest, laughing softly. Traitor. Another knock sounded quickly. My king, Kale's voice. Urgent. I closed my eyes briefly. Someone better be dying. Someone was definitely dying. I opened the chamber doors, looking seconds away from murder while Kale stood outside trying very hard not to look past me into the room. Smart. Nyra still sat tangled in blankets behind me with swollen lips and silver eyes darkened from desire. Mine. The possessive instinct hit instantly again. Kale cleared his throat carefully. My king. Golden eyes narrowed. This better matter. A dangerous silence followed. Then Kale finally looked up. He's here. The beast inside me immediately reacted. Violently. My jaw tightened hard enough to ache. Of course. A fucking course. Nyra appeared behind me moments later, wrapped loosely in one of my black shirts. Bare legs. Messy hair. Still carrying my scent all over her skin. The sight nearly distracted me again instantly. Dangerous. Her silver eyes moved between us curiously. What happened? Kale hesitated. Then quietly, Prince Keller arrived. Silence crashed through the hallway. Cold silence. Because there were very few names capable of making an entire kingdom nervous. Keller was one of them. Nyra frowned slightly beside me. The ancient Lycan prince? I looked toward her immediately. You know him? Her expression softened thoughtfully. I've heard stories. Of course she had. Everyone had. Keller wasn't simply a prince. He was a fucking legend. Ancient bloodline. War hero. Monster. One of the few males alive powerful enough to challenge kings and survive it. And now he was here. The timing immediately made my instincts restless. Nyra noticed the exact second irritation moved through the bond. Her hand slid quietly against my arm. Grounding. The possessive beast calmed slightly. Kale awkwardly looked away. When did he arrive? Minutes ago. I cursed softly beneath my breath. Keller never visited without reason. Never, which meant something was wrong. Nyra studied my expression carefully. You don't like him? A dark laugh escaped me. Most people don't. That wasn't entirely true. Most people feared him too much to dislike him openly. The ancient prince rarely spoke. Rarely smiled. Rarely cared about anyone. Even I respected him carefully. Which honestly annoyed the fuck out of me. Nyra tilted her head slightly. Now I want to meet him. Absolutely not. The refusal nearly left my mouth instantly. But before I could speak, Kale added carefully. He requested an audience with both of you. The beast inside me immediately snarled. Mine. Nyra blinked beside me. With me? I hated the curiosity in her voice already. Kale nodded slowly. He specifically asked to meet the Moonborn queen. Something cold moved through my chest instantly. Possessive irritation pulsed sharply through the bond. Nyra noticed. A dangerous, amused smile touched her mouth softly. She enjoyed this shit now. Kale wisely stepped backward before either of us decided to kill him accidentally. The throne room is prepared. I stared at him flatly. You're enjoying this? No, my king. Liar? The male practically fled down the hallway afterward. Nyra laughed softly behind me. The sound warmed something dangerous inside my chest instantly. I turned slowly toward her. Still wearing my shirt. Still carrying my scent. Still looking entirely too pleased with herself. Careful, little mate. Her silver eyes brightened immediately. Oh? I stepped closer slowly until her back pressed lightly against the stone wall. Nyra's breathing changed instantly. My hand settled possessively against her waist. If this male looks at you too long. The rough warning in my voice made heat flicker softly across her cheeks. What happens then? I lowered my head slowly toward hers. Then I remind the entire kingdom exactly who you belong to. The mate bond exploded violently with heat. Nyra swallowed softly. Beautiful little mate. And somewhere below us, the ancient prince waited. The throne room went silent the second we entered. Not respectful silence. Nervous silence. Every warrior standing beside the massive black pillars looked tense as if preparing for bloodshed. My silver eyes slowly moved toward the male standing near the enormous throne. And gods, now I understood why entire kingdoms feared Prince Keller. Tall, massive. Ancient scars crossed his throat and hands while silver white. Hair brushed against dark black clothing. Cold grey eyes lifted slowly toward us. Emotionless. The second those eyes landed on me, something shifted. Not lust. Not obsession. Recognition. The strange intensity of it made my wolf stir softly beneath my skin. Beside me, Draven instantly noticed. The possessive irritation through the mate bond nearly made me sigh. Mine, the emotion rolled hard through him now. Keller's gaze slowly moved toward Draven afterward. The atmosphere immediately sharpened. Two predators silently measuring each other. Draven, Keller's voice sounded deep. Controlled. Dangerously calm. The Lycan king beside me crossed his arms slowly. Keller, gods, males, neither moved. Neither smiled. Everyone in the throne room looked seconds away from fainting. Keller's cold grey eyes eventually returned toward me again. The attention felt strangely heavy, like he was searching for something. Then finally, the Moonborn queen. The quiet roughness in his voice echoed through the room. Draven's jaw flexed instantly beside me. Jealous, possessive idiot. I stepped forward anyway. Nyra, Keller watched me silently. Then something unexpected happened. The ancient prince lowered his head slightly toward me. Respect. Real respect. Shock rippled quietly through the throne room. Because apparently Prince Keller bowed for absolutely no one. Draven noticed too. The possessive heat through the bombs spiked immediately. I ignored him with difficulty. What brings you here? Keller's expression darkened slightly. War. The room fell quiet. Keller slowly approached the large map table near the throne while several generals straightened nervously around him. There are movements near the eastern borders. Draven's posture immediately shifted. King now. Dangerous king. Witches? Keller nodded once. Not ordinary covens. Cold dread curled softly through my stomach. Fiona. Keller's eyes briefly flicked toward me again. The old bloodlines are gathering. The room temperature seemed to drop instantly. Even the generals looked uneasy now. Draven moved closer toward the table slowly. What do they want? Silence. Then Keller answered quietly. The Moonborn queen. The mate bond exploded violently with Draven's rage. Mine, The instinct slammed hard enough through the connection to nearly steal my breath. Several nearby warriors immediately stepped backward. Keller watched Draven calmly, unbothered, which somehow only irritated the Lycan King more. If they touch her, they'll die. Keller finished the sentence before Draven could. The throne room froze instantly, because for the first time, the ancient prince sounded emotional. Not much. Just enough. My wolf stirred again quietly. Draven noticed instantly. Golden eyes snapped toward me sharply. Then toward Keller. Dangerous mistake. Because now the possessive irritation through the mate bond became nearly unbearable. Honestly, I almost wanted to laugh. Keller finally looked directly toward me again. Grey eyes strangely focused now. Your father once saved my bloodline. Silence crashed through the throne room. My breath caught softly. What? Even Draven looked surprised beside me. Keller's expression remained unreadable. But that conversation can wait. Wait? Absolutely not. I stepped closer immediately. You knew my father? For the first time since entering the throne room, real emotion flickered across Keller's scarred face. Pain. Old pain. Yes. The quiet answer wrapped heavily around my chest. Before I could ask another question, a servant suddenly rushed into the throne room terrified. My king! Everyone turned instantly. The servant nearly tripped while gasping for breath. The Eastern Watchtower. Fear filled his expression. It's burning. Draven. The Eastern Watchtower burned bright against the snow-covered mountains. Orange flames swallowed the night, while warriors stormed across the castle walls preparing for battle. I stood beside Nyra on the highest balcony overlooking the kingdom. The mate bond pulsed uneasily between us now. Fear, not hers. Mine, because every instinct inside me screamed the same thing. This was only the beginning. Nyra stepped closer beside me while freezing wind moved through her dark hair. Silver eyes reflected the burning tower below. They're testing us. Keller's voice sounded behind us quietly. I didn't turn immediately, because honestly, the second the ancient prince entered the balcony, Nyra's scent shifted slightly with curiosity. And I hated how instantly I noticed. Mine, the possessive instinct rolled hard through my chest again. Keller stepped beside us calmly while warriors below shouted orders through the snowstorm. They want to see how strong the Moonborn queen truly is. Nyra crossed her arms slowly against the cold. Then they're going to be disappointed. A low, amused sound escaped Keller softly. The ancient prince almost never reacted emotionally to anything. I noticed Nyra looking toward him curiously afterward. Keller's grey eyes slowly moved toward her again. Not lust. Not desire. Something stranger. Recognition. Respect. And somehow, that only annoyed me more. Nyra turned toward him fully now. What did you mean before? Keller stayed silent briefly. The snowstorm moved softly around us. Then finally, your father died saving my family. The quiet confession wrapped heavily through the balcony. Nyra froze beside me instantly. The mate bond pulsed sharply with emotion. Shock, pain, curiosity. I moved closer instinctively, until my hand settled, possessively against her lower back, grounding her. Keller noticed immediately. But instead of reacting, the ancient prince simply looked toward the burning mountains again. My father owed his life to yours. Nyra swallowed softly. You knew him well? Keller's jaw tightened slightly. The first real emotion I'd seen from him tonight. Yes. Silence followed. Then quietly, he was the greatest Lycan warrior I've ever seen. The honesty in his voice stunned even me slightly. Because Keller respected almost no one. Nyra's emotions surged harder through the bond now. I tightened my hand against her instinctively. The silver wolf inside her immediately calmed beneath my touch. Keller noticed that too. Grey eyes lingered briefly on my hand against her waist. Then away again. A loud horn suddenly echoed across the kingdom walls. Danger. Every warrior below immediately shifted into motion. Keller's expression hardened instantly. The witches are closer than expected. My claws partially shifted immediately. Good. Violence rolled pleasantly through the beast inside me now. Because if Fiona thought she could threaten my kingdom again, I'd bury her entire bloodline beneath the snow. Nyra suddenly stepped forward toward the balcony edge. Silver light flickered faintly beneath her skin. The Moonborn power reacted instinctively to danger now. Keller watched carefully beside us. She shouldn't fight yet. I immediately looked toward him sharply. She's not helpless. Grey eyes met mine calmly. That's not what I said. Tension sharpened instantly between us. Nyra sighed softly. Because unfortunately, the ancient prince wasn't entirely wrong. Nyra's powers still frightened me sometimes. Not because I feared her. Because I feared what the world would do to her, once they understood how powerful she truly was. The mate bond pulsed warmly suddenly. Nyra, calming me again. Gods, this female was becoming my weakness in every possible way. Keller's gaze slowly lifted toward the dark forests beyond the burning tower. Then quietly, they're searching for the Moonborn forest. Silence crashed across the balcony. Nyra stiffened instantly beside me. My expression darkened. What forest? Keller looked toward her slowly. Not me. Her, and for the first time, the ancient prince sounded almost careful. The place your mother disappeared into. Nyra. The place your mother disappeared into. The words echoed through my chest long after Keller spoke them. Silence settled heavily across the balcony while snowstorms raged below us. My mother was alive. Even thinking the words felt unreal. I turned slowly toward Keller. You know where she is. The ancient prince stayed silent briefly. Then, no. Shock hit instantly. What? Keller's grey eyes lifted toward the mountains. I know she survived. The quiet certainty in his voice wrapped painfully around my chest. But the enchanted forest disappeared years ago. Cold wind moved through the balcony. The mate bond pulsed uneasily beside me. Draven's hand settled firmly against my waist instinctively, grounding me. Keller crossed his arms slowly. The forest hides itself from outsiders. His gaze shifted toward me. Only Moonborn blood can enter willingly. Hope and frustration twisted together violently inside me. There has to be a way to find it. Keller hesitated slightly. Then quietly, my grandmother might know. Draven immediately looked toward him sharply. You never mentioned your grandmother was alive. A dark, almost amused look crossed Keller's scarred face. She enjoys being forgotten. Honestly? That sounded terrifying. Keller looked back toward the storm. She carries Moonborn blood. The silence afterwards sharpened instantly. Everything suddenly made more sense. The way my Wolf reacted to him. The strange familiarity. Even the silver strands hidden faintly beneath his white hair. Draven realized it too. Judging by the possessive irritation pulsing through the bond, he absolutely hated it. I ignored him with difficulty. Your grandmother knew my parents? Keller nodded once slowly. Yes. Emotion tightened painfully through my chest. The silver wolf stirred softly beneath my skin. Family. History. Answers. Keller's expression darkened again. But if the witches are moving now? The burning tower cracked loudly in the distance below us. Then Fiona suspects the forest still exists. Cold dread spread instantly through me. My mother. Somewhere hidden all these years. And another thought hit even harder. You said my father helped your family escape. Keller's jaw tightened slightly. The first real emotion I'd seen from him tonight. Yes. Silence followed. Then quietly, he died protecting your mother and both daughters. My breath caught sharply. Both daughters. The mate bond instantly surged with my shock. Draven pulled me closer immediately. Easy, little mate. But my thoughts spiraled too fast now. Another child survived. A sister. Alive. The silver wolf inside me practically trembled with emotion. Keller watched me carefully. She remained hidden with your mother. My voice barely worked. All this time. Keller nodded slowly. Your mother never stopped hiding from the witches. Draven's arm tightened possessively around my waist. She won't need to hide much longer. The dangerous promise in his voice sent warmth through my chest instantly. Gods, this male truly intended to protect everyone I loved. Keller studied Draven silently for a moment. Then finally, we leave at sunrise. I blinked softly. For your grandmother. The ancient prince nodded once. She lives beyond the northern ruins. Draven immediately frowned. The Dead Valley. Keller looked entirely unbothered. She prefers the quiet. That honestly sounded even more terrifying. For the first time that night, a small smile almost touched my mouth. Keller noticed. And surprisingly, the ancient prince's expression softened slightly in return. Not flirtation. Not desire. Something calmer. Almost protective. Draven instantly noticed too. The possessive irritation through the bonds spiked immediately. Then suddenly, a violent roar echoed from below the castle walls. Warriors shouted instantly afterward. Keller's expression sharpened immediately. The witches are here, and somewhere deep beneath my skin, the silver wolf growled. Keller, fear followed him everywhere. Keller noticed it the second he entered the lower halls beneath the Lycan castle. Servants lowered their heads instantly. Warriors straightened nervously. Even noble she-wolves stopped speaking whenever he passed. Good. Fear kept kingdoms obedient. The ancient prince walked silently through the stone corridors while black fur cloaks shifted softly behind him. Cold grey eyes remained fixed ahead. Emotionless. Untouchable. That was the image kingdoms preferred. Monster prince. War beast. Executioner. Not the truth. But close enough. Two young she-wolves whispered softly near the archways ahead before noticing him approaching. Both immediately froze. One swallowed nervously. The other stared too long. Desire mixed dangerously with fear in her scent. Keller ignored them completely. He's beautiful, one whispered quietly after he passed. The second female laughed softly. You're terrified of him. So are you. Keller descended deeper beneath the castle while snowstorms shook the mountains outside. His thoughts drifted unwillingly towards Silver Eyes again. Nyra, the Moonborn queen, carried her father's presence in the worst possible ways. Not appearance. Something deeper. The same instinctive calm before violence. The same protective rage. The same eyes. Gods. The moment Keller saw her, he almost stopped breathing. A dangerous thing for ancient memories to return after so many years. He still remembered the night her father died. Blood, fire, Moonborn screams. The males standing between witches and Keller's family while the kingdom burned around them. Run. Those were the last words the Lycan warrior ever spoke to Keller's father. And he stayed behind to die. Keller's jaw tightened instantly. His family survived because Nyra's died. The realization still tasted like guilt after all these years. The corridor ahead suddenly filled with warm light. Keller stopped outside the old library chambers silently. Inside, he heard laughter. Nyra, the quiet sound startled him slightly. Because after years of hearing only fear and war, the softness felt strange. Dangerous. Keller stepped closer unconsciously, then paused. Draven's scent wrapped heavily around the room. Possessive Lycan bastard. A low, almost amused breath escaped Keller softly. The king truly looked at Nyra like breathing depended on her existence. The ancient prince leaned silently against the stone wall outside the chambers. Not entering. Not interrupting. Just listening quietly while the storm outside worsened. Then suddenly, Nyra's voice softened. You don't have to glare every time Keller speaks to me. Silence. Then Draven growled low enough for Keller to hear even through thick stone walls. He looks at you too long. Keller blinked once slowly. Nyra laughed softly afterward. You're impossible. I'm your mate. The possessive answer came instantly. Keller looked toward the dark hallway quietly. And for the first time in years, something unfamiliar twisted softly through his chest. Not jealousy. Not desire. Something quieter. Loneliness. Because no one had ever looked at Keller the way Draven looked at Nyra, like she was both weakness and salvation. The realization settled heavily through the ancient prince. Then slowly, Keller pushed away from the wall and disappeared deeper into the castle shadows. Alone, like always. Nyra. The northern journey began before sunrise. Snowstorms swallowed the mountains, surrounding the Lycan kingdom while warriors prepared horses below the castle gates. Cold wind moved through my dark cloak as I stepped into the courtyard beside Draven. The second he saw me, golden eyes darkened instantly. Gods, this male reacted to me like he'd been starved for years. His gaze slowly dragged over my body beneath black travel leathers. Possessive warmth pulsed hard through the mate bond immediately. A dangerous smile almost touched my mouth. You're staring again. Draven stepped directly in front of me. Large hands settled against my waist possessively. I'm thinking, Lyra? The bond betrayed him instantly. Desire rolled through it hot enough to nearly make me blush. Before I could answer, the courtyard suddenly went silent. Every warrior straightened immediately. Keller entered through the castle gates mounted on a massive black horse. And gods, the stories truly didn't do him justice. Silver-white hair moved, softly through the storm while dark, armor wrapped around his scarred body like shadow itself. Cold grey eyes swept across the courtyard calmly. Every she-wolf nearby instantly stared. Ancient dangerous males apparently had that effect on females. Keller ignored every single one of them. Then his gaze landed on me. Recognition flickered softly again. Not desire. Never desire. Something calmer. Respect. The silver wolf inside me stirred quietly. Safe, Draven immediately noticed. The possessive irritation through the bond spiked hard enough to make me sigh internally. Keller dismounted silently before walking toward us through the snow. Several warriors instinctively moved aside for him. Fear. Real fear. The ancient prince stopped directly before us. Ready? Draven crossed his arms slowly. You enjoy appearing dramatically. A quiet, almost amused look crossed Keller's scarred face. The storm helps. Gods. Now there were two impossible males. Keller's cold grey eyes slowly shifted toward me again. The journey will take 3 days. I nodded softly. Your grandmother lives far from the kingdom. The ancient prince looked toward the northern mountains. She prefers isolation. Something about the answer almost sounded protective. Draven noticed too. You visit her often? Keller stayed silent briefly. Then quietly, she raised me. Well, that explained a lot. Somehow the idea of terrifying Prince Keller being fussed over by an old grandmother nearly made me laugh. Judging by the tiny shift in Keller's expression, he noticed the exact moment the thought crossed my mind. Dangerous Lycan senses. His gaze narrowed slightly. Then suddenly, a young noble she-wolf approached carefully through the courtyard snow. Beautiful. Blonde. Nervous. Every warrior nearby instantly looked uncomfortable. Apparently this was a terrible idea. My prince. Keller slowly looked toward her. Cold. Unreadable. The poor female visibly lost confidence immediately. Still, she stepped closer anyway. I heard you return from the northern wars. Silence. The she-wolf swallowed nervously. I was hoping perhaps. No. The quiet interruption stunned even me slightly. The female blinked softly. What? Keller's expression never changed. No, that was it. No explanation. No apology. Nothing. Gods. The poor female looked ready to disappear into the snow. Then Keller simply walked past her toward his horse again. Like the conversation never happened. The she-wolf stared after him horrified. Draven suddenly laughed beside me. Actually laughed. Rare enough already. He rejected her last winter too. I looked toward him in disbelief. A quiet sound escaped me before I could stop it. Keller glanced back toward us briefly. And somehow, the prince looked mildly offended that we found him entertaining. Honestly, that only made it worse. Then suddenly, his gaze shifted fully toward me again. Serious now. We should leave before nightfall worsens. The storm howled violently around the courtyard. And somewhere far beyond the northern mountains, answers waited for me beneath ancient Moonborn magic. The northern mountains felt mystical, silent, dangerous. Snow-covered endless black forests while our horses moved carefully, along narrow frozen paths beneath the storm. I rode beside Draven wrapped in thick black furs while Keller led the warriors ahead through the blizzard. The ancient prince looked completely unbothered by the freezing winds. Honestly, I was beginning to suspect Keller simply belonged to winter itself. Draven noticed me staring toward him. The mate bond instantly pulsed with irritation. You're doing it again. I looked toward him innocently. Doing what? Golden eyes narrowed dangerously. Looking at him, a soft laugh escaped me. You're jealous of everyone. Only males. That narrows it down so much. Draven's large hand suddenly grabbed my horse's reins before pulling me closer beside him. Possessive. Snowflakes melted softly against dark hair, while his gaze dragged slowly across my face. You smell amused. You smell territorial. A dangerous smile touched his mouth. I am territorial. The honesty nearly made me laugh again. Then suddenly, my horse shifted nervously beneath me. The silver wolf inside me stirred instantly. Danger. Keller immediately raised one hand ahead. The entire group stopped. Silence swallowed the mountains. Cold, heavy silence. Draven's posture instantly changed beside me. His hand moved toward the blade at his waist. What is it? Keller slowly looked toward the dark forest surrounding us. Watchers. Every warrior immediately tensed. I swallowed softly. The storm worsened around us. Then, movement. Dark shadows slipped silently between the snow-covered trees. Witches. The silver wolf growled low inside me instantly. Draven moved his horse directly beside mine protectively. The possessive instinct rolled violently through the bond. Keller dismounted slowly ahead of us. Calm. Too calm. One of the younger warriors whispered nervously. There's too many. Keller's cold grey eyes never left the forest. No. The quiet answer chilled the air. Not enough. Gods. Even Draven looked mildly impressed by that one. A soft laugh nearly escaped me. Then suddenly, dark magic exploded through the trees. Purple flames burst violently across the snow while hooded witches stepped from the shadows surrounding the mountain path. The silver wolf inside me instantly pushed forward. Fight. Protect. Draven's claws partially shifted beside me. Keller slowly drew the massive black sword from his back. And gods, the atmosphere changed instantly. Every warrior went still. Because suddenly, Prince Keller no longer looked like a quiet prince. He looked like a creature built entirely for war. One witch stepped forward slowly. Her eyes landed directly on me. There she is. Hatred twisted through the female's voice. The silver wolf snarled violently beneath my skin. Draven's horse lunged aggressively forward. Careful! Keller's quiet warning stopped him instantly. Very few males could command Draven's attention during battle. Keller stepped ahead calmly, while snowstorms swirled around dark armor. Grey eyes completely emotionless now. "You're trespassing," the witches actually laughed. Big mistake. The atmosphere around Keller shifted instantly colder. Deadly. One hooded witch suddenly attacked. Too fast. Dark magic shot violently toward me. Draven moved immediately, but Keller was faster. His sword sliced through, the spell mid-air hard enough to explode. Dark magic across the mountain path. Shock rippled through the warriors instantly. The prince didn't even blink. Then slowly, Keller lifted cold grey eyes toward the witches. "You should have stayed hidden." And suddenly, the mountain exploded into war. Lyra. The vision began with blood. Always blood. Lyra woke with a sharp breath while silver light exploded violently through the hidden forest chamber around her. Candles shattered instantly. Moonflowers curled beneath uncontrolled magic spreading across the floor. Fear hit her chest too late. Another vision. Not again. Lyra stumbled backward, from the bed breathing unevenly, while silver streaks in her dark hair glowed faintly beneath, moonlight pouring through the ancient trees outside. The forest whispered around her, protective. But tonight, even the enchanted woods felt afraid. A soft knock suddenly echoed at the chamber doors. "Lyra?" Her mother's voice. Lyra closed her eyes briefly, trying to steady the storm inside her chest. Too late. The vision slammed into her anyway. Fire, snow, war, a silver wolf roaring beneath the full moon. Nyra. The moment Lyra saw her sister, emotion nearly shattered her completely. Silver eyes. Dark hair. Alive. After all these years. Alive. The forest magic pulsed wildly around Lyra in response. Sister. But then, the vision changed. Darkness exploded across the battlefield. And suddenly, him. A massive lichen tore through witches like death itself beneath the storm. Silver white hair. Scary scars. Grey eyes colder than winter. Terrifying. The male moved through blood and fire like a creature born entirely for war. Nothing stopped him. Nothing survived him. Fear curled sharply through Lyra's chest. Because gods, the way he fought didn't look human. It looked monstrous. Then suddenly, the terrifying lichen stopped. Grey eyes lifted directly toward her. No, not toward the battlefield. Toward her, like he could actually see her standing inside the vision. Lyra's breath caught instantly. The male began walking toward her slowly. One step. Another. The closer he came, the louder her heartbeat became. Fear. Confusion. Something worse. The vision shattered violently the second he reached for her. Lyra gasped sharply back inside the chamber. Silver light burst uncontrollably around the room. The doors flew open instantly. Her mother rushed toward her immediately. Lyra! Warm arms wrapped around her, while the forest magic slowly calmed again. Lyra's breathing stayed uneven. She's coming. Fear flickered across her mother's face instantly. Who? Lyra slowly looked toward the moonlit forest outside the windows. Toward the mountains far beyond the hidden kingdom. My sister. Emotion tightened painfully through her chest. She's alive. Tears instantly filled her mother's silver eyes. But Lyra barely noticed, because her thoughts stayed trapped on the second part of the vision. The terrifying male with winter-grey eyes. The ancient monster who looked directly at her, like fate already belonged to him. Her mother gently touched her face. What else did you see? Lyra stayed silent briefly. Then quietly, a lichen, the forest outside suddenly went still. Completely still. And somehow, that frightened Lyra more than the vision itself. Draven. The mountain erupted into chaos instantly. Dark magic exploded across the snow, while warriors crashed violently against witches beneath the storm. Blood stained white ground within seconds. I tore through the first witch fast, enough to snap her neck before she finished casting. Screaming echoed through the mountains. The beast inside me surged happily toward violence. Protect your mate. Mine. The instinct roared through every part of me while Nyra's silver power crackled wildly nearby. Another witch lunged toward her. Dead. Keller's massive sword split the female apart before I even reached her. The prince moved through battle like winter itself. Cold, merciless, effortless. Every swing of his blade dropped another enemy into the snow. Gods! Now I remembered why kingdoms feared him. A violent explosion shook the mountain path beside us. Nyra staggered slightly after deflecting dark magic with silver flames. The wolf inside me reacted instantly. Fear, not hers. Mine. I reached her immediately. You're pushing too hard. Silver eyes flashed toward me fiercely. I'm fine. Lyra? The mate bond practically burned with exhaustion already. Keller suddenly appeared beside us covered in blood. Not his. The witches aren't trying to kill her. Cold dread twisted instantly through my chest. They're separating us. The realization hit immediately afterward. This wasn't a normal attack. It was distraction. A trap. One hooded witch suddenly screamed something ancient across the battlefield. Dark symbols exploded beneath the snow. The ground cracked violently apart. Nyra stumbled directly toward the edge. My heart fucking stopped. I moved instantly, but another witch slammed dark chains around my arms hard enough to drag me backward. Rage exploded through me violently. Draven. Nyra's scream nearly shattered the beast completely. Keller reacted faster than anyone else. The prince lunged through exploding magic before catching. Nyra seconds before she fell into the collapsing ravine. Snow and stone crashed violently beneath them. For one horrifying second, both disappeared over the edge. Fear ripped savagely through the mate bond. I snapped the dark chains apart instantly. Bodies flew across the battlefield, while I tore through, every witch in my path trying to reach her. Then suddenly, silver light exploded below the ravine. Nyra, relief slammed through my chest. I reached the cliff edge moments later, and froze. Keller stood halfway down the broken mountain rocks holding Nyra tightly against his chest while dark magic burned across his arm. The witch spell hit him instead of her. Blood covered the snow beneath him. Nyra looked terrified. Keller, the prince ignored the injury completely. Cold grey eyes lifted toward me calmly, despite blood dripping from his arm. Get her out of here. The protective command stunned me briefly. Then another explosion shook the mountain. Witches poured from the forest again. Too many. Keller carefully pushed Nyra upward toward me first. Not himself. Her. I grabbed her instantly the second she reached the cliff edge. Warm. Alive. Mine. Relief nearly weakened my knees. Nyra immediately looked back toward Keller. He's hurt. The prince climbed from the ravine seconds later, like the injury meant absolutely nothing. Dark blood-stained silver-white hair now. Still, the terrifying bastard barely looked affected. One of the younger warriors stared at him in disbelief. How are you still standing? Keller slowly pulled the black blade free from another dead witch. Cold grey eyes emotionless again. I'm irritated. Gods. Then suddenly, the storm went silent. Every witch froze. Every warrior too. And somewhere deep within the forest, something or someone laughed. Nyra. The laughter echoed through the forest. Female. Wrong. Every instinct inside me immediately reacted. The silver wolf snarled violently beneath my skin. Danger. Snowstorms suddenly stopped around the mountain path. Complete silence swallowed the battlefield. Even the witches looked nervous now. Keller slowly stepped in front of me despite blood still running down his arm. Protective. Not possessive like Draven. Calm. Instinctive. The difference felt strangely comforting. Draven immediately noticed that thought through the mate bond. The possessive irritation hit instantly. Gods. Even now. Keller's cold grey eyes stayed fixed on the dark forest ahead. Then suddenly, a woman stepped from the shadows. Everything inside me froze. Long black robes dragged softly through the snow while silver symbols glowed faintly across pale skin. Ancient witch. Power rolled from her violently. The surrounding witches immediately lowered their heads. Fear. Real fear. The older woman slowly looked toward me and smiled. Cold terror curled through my chest instantly. Well, her voice echoed softly across the mountains. The last Moonborn princess finally awakens. Draven moved slightly in front of me immediately. Mine. The possessive instinct slammed through the bond violently. The witch's silver eyes slowly lifted toward him. Careful, Lycan King. Dark amusement touched her mouth. Your mate belongs to older magic than you understand. The beast inside Draven nearly exploded. Keller stepped forward first. The prince showed absolutely no fear toward the witch. You shouldn't be here. The older woman laughed softly. And yet here I am. Her gaze slowly moved toward Keller afterward. Recognition flickered instantly across her face. Ah, something ugly twisted through her expression. The Moonborn traitor's bloodline. The atmosphere changed instantly. Keller's eyes turned glacial. Dangerous mistake. Because for the first time since meeting him, I felt real rage rolling from the ancient prince. Not irritation. Not calm violence. Hatred. The witch smiled cruelly. Your grandmother should have died with the others. Keller moved so fast even the warriors startled. His blade stopped directly against the witch's throat. The entire battlefield froze instantly. Snow moved softly around silver-white hair while Keller stared down at her completely emotionless. But gods, the rage in his eyes terrified me. Speak about my family again. The quiet threat sounded monstrous. The witch slowly smiled wider. Or what? Keller's voice dropped colder. You'll discover why kingdoms fear me. Silence crashed through the mountain path. Even Draven looked mildly impressed beside me. Then suddenly, dark magic exploded from the witch violently. Keller shoved me backward instantly. The blast shattered half the mountain beside us. Warriors screamed. Snow collapsed violently through the forest. Draven caught me before I hit the ground. The bond surged hard with fury now. The silver wolf inside me snapped completely awake. Silver flames exploded across my hands. The witch noticed instantly. And gods, the hunger in her expression terrified me. There she is. The older woman stepped slowly through smoke and falling snow. The Moonborn heir. Keller instantly moved beside us again, despite blood covering his arm. Protective wall. The witch laughed softly after seeing it. How interesting. Silver eyes slowly moved between Keller and Draven. Two monsters protecting one little queen. Draven's claws partially shifted instantly. You're seconds away from death. The older witch looked entirely unbothered. Then suddenly, her gaze locked directly onto me, and the smile vanished completely. You look exactly like your mother. My breath caught instantly. The witch noticed. Cruel satisfaction twisted through her face. She screamed beautifully the night we burned her kingdom. Rage exploded through me violently. The silver wolf roared. And suddenly, silver fire consumed the entire mountain. Silver fire exploded across the mountain violently enough to shake the entire forest. The witches screamed instantly. Several were thrown backward through the snow, while silver flames devoured. Dark magic around me. Power surged uncontrollably beneath my skin. The wolf roared. Protect. Destroy. My breathing turned uneven. The storm itself seemed to react now. Snow spiraled wildly around the battlefield, while moonlight cracked through dark clouds overhead. And suddenly, everything stopped. Every witch froze. Fear filled their expressions instantly. The older witch stared at me in disbelief. No. Silver flames burned brighter around my hands. The power inside me felt different now. Wrong. Too strong. Draven reached me immediately. Warm hands gripped my waist firmly. Nyra, the rough command grounded me slightly. The mate bond pulsed violently. Calm down. I blinked hard, trying to steady my breathing. The silver fire slowly weakened. The older witch continued staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. Then quietly, the queen returned. Cold silence spread across the battlefield. Keller immediately stepped beside us again. Protective wall. Blood still covered his arm. The witch noticed him instantly afterward. Hatred twisted across her face again. You should have died with the rest of them. Keller looked entirely unbothered. You first. Gods. Even now this male sounded terrifyingly calm. The older witch slowly stepped backward. Fear finally touched her scent too. Because suddenly, the balance of power had changed. The witches felt it. The older female's gaze locked onto me one final time. This isn't over, Moonborn. The silver wolf growled instantly beneath my skin. The witch smiled coldly. We'll find your family. Rage surged violently through me again. But before I moved, Keller's hand suddenly caught my wrist. Not rough. Grounding. Don't chase fear. Grey eyes held mine calmly. Let them retreat. For the first time since meeting him, the prince looked almost protective toward me specifically. The older witch noticed too. Something ugly flashed through her, expression before dark smoke exploded around the witches violently. And then, they vanished. Silence crashed across the ruined mountain path afterward. Snow fell softly again. Warriors slowly lowered weapons. Several injured males groaned nearby. The battle was finally over. Draven's hands instantly framed my face. Golden eyes searched me carefully. You're exhausted. Only after he said it, I realized my entire body trembled. The silver fire burned too much energy. Draven noticed immediately. Without warning, he lifted me directly into his arms. A startled breath escaped me. Several warriors immediately looked away, trying not to smile. Traitors. I can walk. No. The possessive answer came instantly. Keller watched us silently nearby while wiping blood from his blade. Then quietly, the storm worsens after dark. Grey eyes lifted toward the distant northern mountains. We continue at sunrise. Draven looked ready to argue. But unfortunately, Keller was right. Even I could feel the danger inside the growing storm now. The prince slowly turned away toward the surviving warriors. And for the first time, I noticed how every male around him watched carefully. Fear, respect, loyalty. Prince Keller truly looked like a male kingdoms would follow into hell itself. Then suddenly, his cold grey eyes shifted briefly back toward me, and softened slightly. Not desire. Never desire. Something quieter. Honor, like protecting me meant protecting a debt left unpaid for years. The realization settled strangely inside my chest. Then Keller disappeared into the storm. And somewhere far away, another pair of dangerous eyes burned with obsession. Mason. Mason woke choking on Nyra's scream. The vision vanished instantly afterward. Silver flames. Snow. Her scent. Gone. Rage exploded violently through his chest. The chamber walls cracked instantly beneath the force of it. Fiona slowly looked up from the dark couch nearby. You saw her again. Not a question. Mason dragged one hand through dark hair, breathing unevenly. The obsession inside him worsened every day now. Sometimes he swore he could actually feel her. Her emotions. Her fear. Her anger. Like the broken mate bond still refused to fully die. She used her power. Fiona's expression darkened instantly. The Moonborn magic? Mason nodded slowly. The image still burned inside his mind. Silver fire consuming an entire battlefield. Beautiful. Dangerous. Mine. The possessive thought came instantly. Fiona noticed the shift in his scent. Hatred flickered across her face. You're getting worse. Mason laughed quietly. Broken sound. She's awakening. The realization thrilled him in the worst possible ways. Because the stronger Nyra became, the more impossible she became to forget. Fiona slowly stood afterward. Dark magic curled softly around her fingers. She's heading north. Mason's eyes slowly lifted toward her. How do you know? A cruel smile touched Fiona's mouth. The witches tracking her survived. Mason leaned back slowly against the massive chair. What did they find? Fiona's smile widened colder. The hidden forest still exists. Silence followed. Then slowly, Mason smiled too. Terrifying smile. Because suddenly, everything made sense. Nyra wasn't simply searching for answers anymore. She was searching for family. And gods, nothing in this world would stop Mason from finding her first. Prepare the horses. Fiona studied him carefully. You're going after her. The obsession inside Mason twisted violently. Yes. Dark eyes slowly lifted toward the storm outside. Toward the north. Toward her. Because this time, a dangerous smile spread across his face. I'm not letting anyone take her away from me again. Nyra. The storm worsened after midnight. Snow crashed violently against the tents surrounding our temporary camp while warriors slept beside dying fires beneath the mountains. I couldn't sleep. Too much happened. My mother alive. A sister. The hidden forest. And somewhere between all of it, Draven's emotions pressed constantly against the mate bond. Protective. Possessive. Restless. Mine. The tent shifted softly behind me. Warm hands immediately settled against my waist. There you are. The deep roughness in Draven's sleepy voice sent heat through me instantly. Gods. Even exhausted, this male still affected me too easily. I leaned back slowly against his chest while freezing wind howled outside. You weren't sleeping either. A low, amused sound vibrated through him softly. I sleep better when you stop wandering away from me. Possessive lycan. My lips almost curved. Draven buried his face slowly against my throat, breathing me in deeply. The action felt almost instinctive now, like he genuinely needed my scent to calm himself. You scared me today. The quiet confession softened something painfully inside my chest. I turned slowly in his arms. Golden eyes searched mine carefully beneath dim lantern light. Still checking. Still reassuring himself I survived. Warm fingers brushed lightly against the scar near his jaw. I'm okay. Draven's expression darkened. You almost fell off a mountain. I smiled slightly. His gaze dropped immediately toward my mouth. Dangerous mistake. Because the second desire flickered through the bond, his entire body reacted. Need slammed hard between us instantly. Gods, the mate bond only became worse every day. Or better, depending on perspective. Draven's hand slowly tightened against my waist. You feel that? His voice dropped rougher now. I swallowed softly. Yes, the tension between us thickened instantly inside the small tent. Warmth. Need. Possession. Draven stepped closer slowly until my back pressed against soft blankets behind me. Predator. Always predator. But with me, careful predator. His fingers brushed gently through my dark hair while his forehead rested, briefly against mine. You smell like silver fire. A soft laugh escaped me. You smell territorial. A dangerous smile touched his mouth. I am territorial. The mate bond pulsed hotter. Draven kissed me slowly. Not rushed. Not rough. Like he wanted to memorize me. Warm lips. Large hands. His scent surrounding me completely. Mine. The wolf inside me purred instantly. Draven growled softly against my mouth in response. The sound sent heat through my entire body. Gods, he knew exactly what that did to me. His hands slowly slid beneath my shirt, exploring my skin, carefully, like he still couldn't believe I belonged to him. Never enough. I kissed him deeper instinctively. Needier. Draven's controls snapped slightly after that. One strong arm lifted me effortlessly against him while the other tangled through my hair possessively. The sudden movement pulled a breathless sound from me. Golden eyes darkened immediately. Gods, the satisfaction in his voice nearly melted me. Outside, the storm raged violently. Inside, everything felt hot. Draven kissed slowly down my throat while his hands gripped my thighs firmly against him. Like letting go wasn't physically possible anymore. The mate bond burned almost painfully now. Emotion, mixed with desire so intensely, it became impossible separating one from the other. Love, need, relief. Mine. I felt all of it. Every part of him. Draven pulled back only enough to look at me again. Messy dark hair. Golden eyes glowing softly. Breathing uneven. Beautiful male. You have no idea what you do to me. The rough honesty wrapped tightly around my chest. My fingers brushed softly along his jaw. You're not exactly easy to resist either. A low laugh escaped him. Then suddenly, Draven buried his face against my neck, again holding me tighter. And this time, I felt it. Not desire. Fear. Tiny. Hidden. But there. Fear of losing me again. The realization hit hard enough to ache. I wrapped my arms around him instantly. I'm here. Draven froze slightly. Then slowly, the Lycan King lifted his head toward mine. Golden eyes softer now. Dangerously soft. You keep saying that like it fixes everything. Maybe it didn't, but gods, I wanted it to. And beneath the storm-covered mountains, the Lycan King kissed me again like I was the only thing keeping the darkness inside him alive. Keller, morning arrived quietly beneath endless snow. The temporary camp slowly awakened, around the mountains, while warriors prepared horses and weapons beside dying fires. Keller sat alone near the frozen river, wrapping dark cloth around the witch wound on his arm. Annoying injury. The poison burned less now, but not enough. Footsteps approached softly through the snow behind him. Keller already recognized the scent. Moonlight. Silver. Nyra. The amused voice pulled his attention upward slowly. Nyra stood nearby, wrapped in thick black furs, while silver eyes moved toward the blood staining his arm. Keller immediately frowned slightly. You shouldn't be here. Nyra crossed her arms. You sound exactly like Draven. Because Draven would enjoy murdering me if he saw you alone with me before sunrise. A soft laugh escaped her instantly. Keller almost forgot what normal laughter sounded like. Nyra stepped closer anyway before crouching beside him near the frozen river. Warm silver light slowly curled around her fingertips. Keller immediately caught her wrist gently before she touched the wound. You don't need to waste your power. Silver eyes lifted toward his calmly. Better not tell anyone. A dangerous smile almost touched her mouth. That my possessive Lycan actually sent me. Keller blinked once slowly. That explained why the king hadn't appeared yet, threatening violence. Nyra carefully pulled her wrist free, before touching silver light against the poisoned wound. Warmth spread instantly through his arm. Relief followed seconds later. The Lycan prince watched her silently. Moonlight still lingered softly across her dark hair while silver eyes stayed, focused on healing him carefully. Not frightened. Not nervous. Most people avoided touching Keller unless necessary. Nyra never seemed to think twice about it. You look tired. The quiet observation pulled him briefly from thought. Keller looked toward the mountains. I haven't slept much. Nyra's silver eyes narrowed slightly. Because of the witches? Partly. Because of memories too. Because every time he looked at her, he remembered blood covering snow beneath burning kingdoms. Keller stayed silent too long. Nyra noticed instantly. Keller slowly looked back toward the river. Silence settled softly around them. Then quietly, what was my father really like? The question lingered heavily through cold morning air. Keller leaned back slightly against the stone behind him. Thinking. Remembering. He laughed during battles. Nyra blinked softly. What? A low, almost amused breath escaped Keller. He said it irritated enemies. That finally pulled a small smile from her. Gods, she truly looked like him sometimes. The same eyes. Same stubbornness. Same fire beneath calm. Keller's expression darkened slightly afterward. He protected everyone around him. Pain twisted unexpectedly through his chest again. Even when he shouldn't have. Nyra's silver eyes lowered quietly. The healing light around her hands softened. Keller rarely spoke about the dead. Nyra slowly finished healing the last traces of poison before pulling her hands away. The burning pain vanished completely. Keller stared briefly at his healed arm afterward. Moonborn healing truly was powerful. Then suddenly, warm possessive irritation pulsed sharply through the air behind them. Both immediately recognized it. Draven. Nyra sighed softly. Told you. Keller almost smiled slightly. Almost. Moments later, the Lycan king appeared through falling snow, looking deeply unimpressed. Golden eyes instantly moved toward Nyra, crouched beside Keller. Then toward the healed arm. Silence. Dangerous silence. Nyra stood immediately. You said I could help him. Draven crossed his arms slowly. I regret my generosity already. Gods. Even Keller almost laughed at that one. The journey north became brutal after the second day. Snowstorms worsened. Freezing winds cut through the mountains relentlessly. Even the Lycan warriors looked exhausted now. The farther we traveled, the stranger the forests became. Ancient trees covered, in silver frost stretched endlessly, across the valleys while moonlight lingered, unnaturally long between the branches. Moonborn magic. I could feel it. The silver wolf stirred restlessly beneath my skin the closer we moved north. Home. The feeling terrified me almost as much as it comforted me. Draven rode beside me silently through the storm, while one hand constantly remained near my horse. Protective male. Not once during the journey did he allow too much distance between us. Not that I minded. The mountains honestly felt dangerous enough already. Ahead of us, Keller led the group calmly through the snow like he'd walked these paths 1,000 times before. Nothing seemed to tire him. Not the freezing cold. Not the endless riding. Not the sleepless nights. One younger warrior eventually whispered exactly that while watching Keller ride ahead through the storm. I swear he's not fully mortal. Another warrior snorted quietly. You're just noticing that now? A soft laugh escaped me. Draven instantly looked toward me. The mate bond warmed immediately. This male reacted to every emotion now. You're tired. The rough concern in his voice softened something inside my chest. A little. That was apparently enough to annoy him. Without warning, Draven pulled his horse closer before lifting me directly into his lap. A startled breath escaped me instantly. Several warriors immediately looked away again. Draven, you're exhausted. I can ride alone. No. Possessive Lycan. Honestly, Arguing felt pointless now. I settled against his chest anyway, while snow fell softly around us. Warm arms wrapped securely around my waist. Safe, the mate bond purred contentedly instantly. Draven buried his face briefly against my hair, breathing me in. Heat touched my cheeks immediately. Ahead of us, Keller glanced back once. Cold grey eyes landed briefly on Draven, holding me against him. Then calmly, the Lycan prince looked away. No reaction. No judgment. Like mate bond possessiveness genuinely didn't surprise him anymore. Hours passed slowly afterward. The sky darkened further. The cold worsened. And finally, Keller raised one hand ahead. The entire group slowed instantly. This is it. My heartbeat quickened immediately. Ahead of us, deep within the frozen forest, warm golden light glowed softly between silver trees. A small cottage. Smoke curled from the chimney, peacefully while moonflowers bloomed, unnaturally beneath the snow. Surrounding it, Moonborn magic wrapped around the entire place. Beautiful. Magical. Alive. The silver wolf inside me immediately went still. Home. Draven's arms tightened slightly around me. The mate bond pulsed carefully now. Protective. Alert. Even Keller's expression subtly shifted while staring toward the cottage ahead. Not fear. Something softer. Respect. Then suddenly, the wooden door slowly opened, and an older woman stepped outside into the falling snow. Silver eyes instantly locked onto us, then directly onto me. The world completely stopped, and suddenly, emotion shattered across her face. Diana. The whispered name broke softly from her lips. My breath caught instantly. Diana, my mother. Hope exploded painfully through my chest. I stepped forward before I could stop myself. You know my mother? The older woman looked completely shaken now. Then suddenly, Keller stepped beside her gently. And for the first time since meeting him, the terrifying Lycan prince looked uncertain. Grandmother. Cold grey eyes softened slightly. This isn't Diana. Silence wrapped around the snowy forest. Keller slowly looked toward me. She's Nyra. The old woman froze completely. Shock filled her silver eyes instantly. No. Emotion cracked through her voice. Keller nodded once quietly. She survived. The older woman stared at me like she was seeing a ghost. Then slowly, tears filled her eyes. Alive. The silver wolf inside me stirred softly beneath my skin. Warmth. Recognition. Moonborn magic. The older woman stepped closer carefully, like she feared I might disappear if she moved too quickly. Weathered fingers slowly lifted toward my face before stopping inches away. You have her eyes. Emotion tightened painfully through my chest. My mother really survived. The older woman nodded slowly. Yes. Draven's hand instantly settled against my lower back, grounding me before emotions completely overwhelmed me. The mate bond pulsed warmly. The old woman noticed him immediately afterward. Silver eyes slowly moved toward the massive Lycan king beside me. Interesting emotion crossed her face. Not fear. Curiosity. Then slowly, amusement. Well, Draven visibly stiffened. Honestly? Fair. The older woman smiled faintly. So this is the terrifying Lycan male the forest whispers about. The possessive satisfaction rolling through the mate bond nearly made me laugh. Of course it did. Keller sighed quietly beside her, already looking exhausted. Grandmother. The warning in his voice almost sounded embarrassed. The older woman ignored him completely, before gently touching the healing wound on his arm. You're injured again. A scratch. Liar. Even Draven looked slightly amused now. Keller truly became a completely different male around her. Still quiet. Still intimidating. But softer somehow. Like this was the only person alive allowed to see beyond the monster kingdoms feared. The old woman finally looked back toward me. Emotion still filled her silver eyes. I held you once when you were only days old. The confession hit hard enough to ache. You were so small. The silver wolf whined softly beneath my skin. The older woman's expression broke slightly. We thought the witches killed you. Draven's hand tightened instinctively against my waist. The possessive warmth through the bond grounded me again instantly. Snow continued falling softly around the cottage while moonflowers glowed beneath the frozen trees. Moonborn magic surrounded everything here. Alive, watching, magical. The old woman slowly stepped aside afterward. Come inside, child. Warm golden light spilled softly from the cottage windows behind her. For the first time since learning the truth about my bloodline, I finally felt close to answers. And somewhere deep beneath my skin, the silver wolf whispered softly. The cottage felt bigger inside than it should have. Moonborn magic curled softly through the wooden walls while silver candles flickered around ancient symbols carved into stone floors. Warmth wrapped around me instantly. Not ordinary warmth. Alive warmth. Like the entire cottage recognized The silver wolf beneath my skin immediately relaxed. Draven noticed the shift through the mate bond. His hand stayed firmly against my waist while we stepped further inside. The older woman moved slowly around the kitchen, placing herbs into steaming water above the fireplace. Keller removed his heavy black cloak silently near the doorway. And gods, every warrior outside instantly looked, relieved. The terrifying prince finally stopped staring at them. The old woman noticed too. They still fear you. Keller looked entirely unbothered. They should. A soft, almost amused sound escaped the old woman before she looked back toward me. You truly look like Diana. Emotion tightened painfully through my chest again. What was she like? The old woman smiled softly. Stubborn. Draven immediately looked toward me. I narrowed my eyes. Don't. His mouth twitched slightly anyway. The old woman continued smiling faintly while stirring silver herbs slowly into the steaming pot. Beautiful too. Keller quietly leaned against the wall nearby, listening silently. Your mother loved the moon forest more than anything. Pain flickered softly across the old woman's face afterward. She never stopped searching for you. My mother. The words hit hard enough to ache. I swallowed quietly. She has another daughter. Silver eyes lifted toward me immediately. So, I nodded slowly. My sister survived too. The old woman stepped closer afterward before gently touching my cheek. Lyra carries your mother's heart. Lyra, her name is Lyra. Something warm twisted softly through my chest, hearing her name spoken aloud for the first time. My sister. Alive. Draven's fingers brushed quietly against my back, grounding me again. The old woman suddenly looked toward him. Ancient silver eyes strangely focused now. You love her deeply. The mate bond instantly pulsed hot with possessive emotion beside me. Draven's jaw tightened slightly. Yes. The rough honesty in his voice warmed my entire chest immediately. The old woman studied him silently afterward. Then finally, you would die for her. Draven looked toward me instantly. Not even hesitation crossed his face. Yes. Keller quietly looked away toward the fireplace. Probably tired of witnessing whatever emotional disaster, Draven and I became near each other. The old woman slowly smiled afterward. Good. Draven blinked once slowly. Apparently that wasn't the response he expected. The older woman moved toward an ancient wooden shelf afterward before carefully removing a silver, moon-shaped pendant. The second I saw it, the silver wolf surged violently beneath my skin. Mine. My breath caught instantly. That belonged to your mother. The old woman stepped toward me, slowly before placing the pendant carefully into my hands. Warmth exploded through me immediately. And suddenly, a memory flashed violently through my mind. soft singing, warm arms, silver moonlight, then screaming. Fire, a female voice crying my name. I gasped sharply. Draven reached me instantly. Nyra, the cottage walls trembled softly around us. Moonborn magic reacting again. The old woman's expression darkened immediately. The memories are returning. Fear curled softly through my chest. What's happening to me? Silence settled heavily across the cottage. Then quietly, the old woman looked toward Keller. It's time she learns the truth about what she is. Moonlight flickered softly through silver curtains while the fireplace crackled beside us. My heartbeat quickened instantly. Draven's hand remained firmly against my waist. The old woman slowly sat across from us, near the fire before, motioning for me to sit beside her. Keller stayed near the doorway, silently watching the snowstorm outside. The older woman's silver eyes slowly returned toward me. You were born during the blood moon. Silence filled the cottage instantly. Even Draven's expression darkened slightly beside me. Apparently that mattered. The old woman continued quietly. The first daughter born beneath the blood moon inherits the ancient queen's power. The silver wolf inside me stirred uneasily. What kind of power? The old woman's expression softened sadly. Moonfire. Silver flames flickered softly across her fingertips. Not ordinary fire. Beautiful. Powerful. Terrifying. It destroys dark magic. My breath caught softly. The old woman nodded slowly. Witches once feared Moonborn queens because of it. Keller's cold voice suddenly echoed from the doorway. They still do. Grey eyes briefly met mine. Recognition lingered there again. Like he already suspected. The old woman continued carefully. Your mother carried Moonborn healing magic. Then softly, but you? Silver eyes darkened. Carry war magic. The cottage went completely silent. Even the fire seemed quieter afterward. Draven's arm instantly tightened around my waist possessively. Protective instincts surged violently through the mate bond. Like he already hated the danger those words implied. The old woman noticed. And almost smiled. Your wolf will continue growing stronger. I swallowed softly. What if I lose control? The old woman stayed silent briefly. Then quietly, that depends on your heart. Comforting. Not terrifying at all. Keller slowly stepped away from the doorway afterward. The witches know now. His voice turned colder. They felt her power. The old woman's expression immediately darkened. Then the forest must remain hidden. My heartbeat quickened again. The forest really moves? The old woman nodded. Moonborn magic protects its own. Silver eyes slowly lifted toward me. But it will reveal itself to the true queen. The silver wolf beneath my skin stirred violently again. Like she recognized the words. The old woman looked toward Draven afterward. Interesting emotion crossed her face again. You confuse the forest. Draven blinked once slowly. I'm honored. A soft laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Keller almost looked amused too. Almost. The older woman ignored us completely. Moonborn magic should reject LYCAN'S. Silver eyes narrowed thoughtfully toward Draven. But your bond with her. The mate bond immediately pulsed warmly. Changed something. Draven's thumb brushed softly against my waist. Mine. Gods. Even now this male reacted like I belonged entirely to him. The old woman slowly leaned back afterward. Tiredness will worsen the visions. My attention snapped toward her instantly. Visions? The old woman nodded. The Moonborn queens often dreamed before disasters. Cold dread twisted softly through my chest. Keller's expression sharpened immediately too. Then we don't have much time. Outside, the storm howled violently around the cottage. And somewhere deep within the hidden forest, another Moonborn daughter woke breathless beneath silver moonlight. Lyra. Moonlight covered the hidden forest in silver. Ancient trees glowed softly around the crystal lake while cold water moved quietly beneath the stars. Lyra stood alone near the edge of the water, breathing unevenly. Another vision was coming. She felt it. The silver streaks within. Her dark hair glowed faintly beneath the moon while Moonborn magic whispered through the forest around her. Then suddenly, the world changed. Warm hands gripped her waist from behind. A sharp breath escaped her instantly. The scent of snow and wild darkness wrapped around her completely. Male. Dangerous male. Her heartbeat quickened violently before she even turned. Massive arms pulled her slowly against a hard chest while moonlight exploded brighter around the lake. The silver wolf inside her stirred instinctively. Mine. The deep growl vibrated through her body. Lyra finally turned and froze. Silver white hair, scarred skin, grey eyes glowing beneath moonlight. The terrifying lycan from her visions. But now, he looked at her like starvation. Raw, possessive. The male slowly touched her face almost like he couldn't believe she was real. Then suddenly, his mouth crashed against hers. Heat exploded violently through her entire body. Gods, the kiss felt wild, hungry, like the beast inside him completely lost control. Moonlight burst brighter across the lake while silver flowers bloomed around them. Magic reacting. The lycan growled deeply against her lips before lifting her effortlessly into his arms. He should have frightened her. Instead, desire burned hotter. The male buried his face against her throat, breathing her in like addiction, while his hands explored her body with desperate possessive need. Mine. The word echoed through the vision violently. Lyra's fingers tangled instinctively through silver white hair while the lycan kissed lower across her skin. Like worship and hunger mixed together. Everything around them glowed brighter. Moonlight, water, magic. The male looked entirely consumed by her. And gods, the terrifying part was how much she wanted him to lose control. Then suddenly, grey eyes lifted toward hers again. And this time, she saw sadness there. The realization wrapped painfully around her chest. The lycan touched his forehead softly against hers. Mine. The rough, possessive whisper shattered the vision instantly. Lyra gasped awake violently inside her chambers. Sweat covered her skin. Her heartbeat pounded wildly. Moonlight still spilled softly through the windows. The hidden forest remained silent around her. But gods, her entire body still remembered the feeling of his hands. The terrifying silver-haired lycan from her visions. The monster beneath moonlight. Lyra pressed trembling fingers against her lips, trying to steady her breathing. What was that? A vision? A dream? Something worse? And why? Why did part of her still wish it hadn't ended? Keller. Something was wrong. Keller woke instantly. Breathing uneven. Heart pounding violently against his chest. The lycan prince sat upright inside the dark guest chamber while snowstorms howled outside the cottage walls. But the cold meant nothing, because all he could still feel was her. Soft skin beneath moonlight. Dark hair slipping through his fingers. Silver-streaked strands glowing beside a crystal lake. Mine. The possessive instinct slammed violently through his wolf again. Keller cursed quietly beneath his breath. Impossible. He'd never seen the female before. And yet, his entire body reacted like the bond already existed. The dream flashed through his mind again. The female beneath silver moonlight looking at him without fear. Gods, nobody ever looked at Keller without fear. But her. She touched him like he was something worth wanting. The memory alone nearly drove the beast insane again. Keller stood abruptly before, shoving one hand through silver white, hair trying to steady his breathing. Didn't work. The wolf paced violently beneath his skin now. Find her. The instinct hit harder this time. Terrifying. Primal. Uncontrollable. Keller immediately left the chamber before he destroyed something. Cold night air hit his skin seconds later as he stepped outside the cottage into falling snow. Still not enough. The female's scent remained trapped inside his mind somehow, despite not being real. Or maybe she was. The dangerous thought stopped him instantly. Impossible. And yet, the silver streaks in her dark hair, the moonborn magic around the lake, the feeling of fate itself snapping violently into place. It felt too real for ordinary dreams. Keller's wolf surged harder. Find her. The lichen prince finally lost patience. Bones cracked violently through the silent forest as his massive silver-black lichen exploded free beneath moonlight. The beast roared instantly into the storm. Frustration. Need. Possession. Snow scattered violently around enormous claws while Keller paced through the forest, unable to calm the madness inside him. Mine. The instinct only worsened. Then suddenly, another scent approached through the snow. Draven. The Lichen King stepped silently between the trees, watching the enormous beast carefully. Most warriors avoided Keller's wolf completely. Draven merely crossed his arms. You're disturbing the entire forest. Keller's massive head slowly turned toward him. Golden eyes narrowed slightly. Then quietly, what happened? Keller shifted back slowly into human form, while snow continued falling around them. The Lichen Prince looked toward the dark forest, avoiding the question entirely. Nothing. Draven stared at him flatly. You're pacing through the mountains like a cursed animal. Keller stayed silent too long. The Lichen King's expression slowly darkened afterward. Then suddenly, understanding flickered across golden eyes. No. Keller immediately looked toward him sharply. Draven almost looked amused now. No fucking way. The realization visibly entertained him. Keller already hated this conversation. Draven stepped closer through the snow slowly. You found her. Silence. Dangerous silence. Then finally, Keller spoke quietly. I saw a female. The words alone felt strange. Wrong almost. Because Keller never spoke about females. Never cared. Never wanted. And yet, the memory of silver-streaked dark hair beneath moonlight still burned through him. Draven watched him carefully. Then softly, you felt the bond. Keller's jaw tightened instantly. Yes, the confession disappeared into the storm. The Lichen King stayed silent briefly afterward. Then unexpectedly, he laughed quietly. Gods, Keller almost preferred battlefields over this humiliation. Draven shook his head slowly. You're completely fucked. Honestly? That sounded accurate. Nyra. The vision came just before sunrise. Silver. Light exploded violently behind my eyes, hard enough to rip me from sleep instantly. I gasped sharply inside the dark cottage chamber while moonfire burned across my fingertips uncontrollably. Danger. The silver wolf surged beneath my skin immediately. Draven woke beside me at the exact same second. Nyra, warm hands instantly, caught my arms, grounding me before the power spread further through the room. The mate bond pulsed sharply with concern, but I barely heard him, because suddenly I wasn't inside the cottage anymore. Ancient silver trees surrounded me beneath glowing moonlight. The hidden forest. Moonborn magic whispered through every branch while soft, silver mist moved across the ground. Then, a female appeared between the trees. Long black hair. Silver eyes filled with emotion. My breath caught painfully. Mother. Diana stared at me like she couldn't believe I was truly there. Nyra. The voice echoed directly inside my mind. Not spoken aloud. The silver wolf inside me instantly recognized her. Family. Lyra sighed softly before looking back toward the glowing river. They're coming closer. Diana moved beside her quietly. Yes. Fear curled through Lyra's chest again instantly. The witches found us? Her mother's expression darkened. They found traces. Silence settled heavily around the river afterward. Then softly, I should help. Diana immediately looked toward her. Lyra, I'm Moonborn too. Emotion cracked through her voice before she could stop it. The silver magic around the river flickered in response. I'm tired of hiding while everyone else fights for us. Diana's expression softened painfully. You are helping. No. Lyra looked away sharply. Nyra has Queen Fire. Pain tightened inside her chest. She's strong. Silver eyes lowered quietly toward the glowing water. And I only dream. The words hurt. Because deep down, Lyra feared it was true. She wasn't like Nyra. Wasn't powerful enough. Wasn't brave enough. Diana stepped closer before gently touching her face. You carry moon goddess magic. Your powers haven't awakened fully yet. Moonlight brightened softly around them. The second daughter was never meant for war. The silver river glowed brighter. You were born for something older. The forest itself seemed to breathe around them. Magical. Alive. Diana brushed silver-streaked hair softly away from Lyra's face. One day the moon will answer you completely. Emotion tightened painfully through Lyra's chest. What if I'm not strong enough? Diana smiled gently. You are. The quiet words shattered something inside her. Then suddenly, the forest shifted violently. Both females froze. Moonborn magic pulsed sharply through the trees. Nyra. She was close. Diana's eyes widened instantly. She found the river. Hope exploded through Lyra painfully. Her sister. Finally. But before she could move, another vision slammed violently through her mind. Silver-white hair. Grey eyes. Massive claws stained with blood. The terrifying Lycan. He was coming too. And gods. The worst part was how violently her heart reacted to the thought. Nyra. Moonlight exploded around us the deeper we walked into the hidden forest. Everything glowed. Silver rivers. Ancient trees. Ruined stone temples wrapped in flowers and vines. The forest felt alive beneath my feet. Watching me. Welcoming me. The silver wolf inside me practically trembled with emotion now. Home. Draven's hand tightened around mine instinctively. The mate bond pulsed carefully. Protective. Alert. Even he seemed affected by the magic surrounding us. Behind us, the silver mist remained closed, leaving Keller and the others outside the forest. The realization sat strangely heavy inside my chest. I looked back once instinctively toward the glowing barrier hidden between the trees. Like part of me expected to still see him standing there. Draven noticed. Golden eyes narrowed slightly. You miss your terrifying prince already. A startled laugh escaped me. Keller isn't my prince. The possessive satisfaction through the mate bond instantly warmed. Before I could answer again, silver light suddenly moved between the trees ahead. My breath caught instantly. A female stepped slowly from the glowing forest. Long black hair. Silver robes flowing softly around her. Eyes exactly like mine. Mother. Emotion crashed violently through my chest instantly. Nyra. The broken whisper shattered me. I ran toward her before I even realized I was moving. Warm arms wrapped around me instantly. Home. The silver wolf inside me nearly cried. My mother held me tightly against her chest while silent. Tears slipped down both our faces, beneath glowing moonlight. You're really here. Emotion cracked through her voice. I thought I lost you forever. Pain tightened painfully through my chest. I looked for you. Diana's hands gently framed my face afterward. Silver eyes searching every part of me like she still couldn't believe I survived. Then suddenly, Her gaze shifted toward Draven standing behind me. The Lycan King remained still, watching carefully. Protecting. Always ready for danger. Interesting emotion crossed Diana's face. Not fear. Recognition. So you're the one. Draven visibly blinked once. The mate bond pulsed warmly beside me. Mine. Diana slowly approached him afterward. Silver eyes strangely ancient now. You crossed Moonborn barriers for her. Draven looked toward me instantly before answering. I'd cross anything for her. My chest hurt, hearing him say things like that. Diana smiled softly afterward. The forest accepted you. Shock flickered briefly across Draven's face. Apparently that mattered. A lot. Then suddenly, another scent drifted softly through the glowing trees nearby. The silver wolf inside me instantly reacted. I turned sharply toward the forest. And froze. A female stood silently near the moon river, watching me with wide silver eyes. Long black hair spilled over pale skin, while silver streaks glowed softly beneath moonlight. Beautiful. Gods, she looked like moonlight itself. Emotion hit instantly. My sister. Lyra looked completely frozen. Like she didn't know whether to run or cry. Honestly? Same. Neither of us moved at first. We just stared. Years of loss, pain, loneliness, and suddenly, family. Then quietly, Nyra. The soft, uncertain voice shattered the distance between us completely. I reached her seconds later, and the moment my arms wrapped around my sister, the entire forest exploded with silver light. Moonborn magic surged violently through the trees, the forest itself rejoicing. And somewhere outside the hidden barriers, a terrifying Lycan suddenly lifted his head sharply toward the glowing sky. Like something inside him had just awakened completely. Nyra. The hidden forest didn't sleep. Moonlight continued glowing, softly across silver rivers, while ancient magic whispered through the trees around us. Everything here felt alive. Watching. Breathing. Remembering. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone anymore. Lyra walked beside me through the glowing pathways while Diana led us deeper into the hidden Moonborn kingdom. I still couldn't stop looking at my sister. Every few seconds my mind repeated the same thing. She's real. Long black hair moved softly around her waist while silver streaks shimmered beneath moonlight. Beautiful, but quieter than me somehow. Like part of her still belonged more to the forest than the world outside it. Draven remained close beside me, silently studying everything around us. Always watching for danger even here. Lyra noticed eventually. Silver eyes slowly moved toward the massive Lycan King walking at my side. He really follows you everywhere. The mate bond instantly warmed with satisfaction. I rolled my eyes slightly. He thinks I'll disappear if he looks away for 5 seconds. Draven looked entirely unashamed. You almost died multiple times. Fair. Honestly fair. A soft laugh escaped Lyra instantly. Gods, the sound alone felt strange after years of silence inside me. Sister. The realization still hurt in the best possible way. Diana slowed near an ancient silver bridge afterward before turning toward us. The forest prepared rooms beside the moon temple. I blinked once. The forest prepared. You'll get used to it. Lyra interrupted softly. Interesting amusement flickered across her face. Moonborn magic truly functioned differently here. As we crossed the glowing bridge, I noticed Lyra glance toward the silver barrier surrounding the hidden kingdom. Again and again. Like she expected something. Or someone. You keep checking the barrier. The words left before I could stop them. Lyra immediately looked away. Too quickly. The silver streaks in her hair glowed faintly beneath moonlight. I've been seeing things. Draven's expression sharpened instantly beside me. Visions? Lyra nodded slowly. The forest around us seemed to quiet afterward. Even Diana looked uneasy now. What kind of visions? Silence stretched briefly. Then softly, a silver-haired lichen. My heartbeat quickened instantly. Gods, Keller. Lyra's expression shifted strangely afterward. Confused. Overwhelmed. Curious. He appears beneath moonlight. The silver wolf inside me stirred knowingly. And? Lyra swallowed softly. The glowing river beneath the bridge shimmered brighter around us. He looks at me like... Her voice faltered briefly. Like I already belonged to him. The mate bond beside me reacted instantly. Draven went completely still. Before anyone could answer, a violent roar suddenly echoed from far beyond the hidden barriers surrounding the forest. Everything froze instantly. The sound shook the silver trees hard enough to make moonflowers fall around us. Keller. The realization hit immediately. But something else moved beneath the roar too. Darkness. The Moonborn forest stirred uneasily around us afterward. Ancient magic reacting. Then suddenly, Diana's expression turned pale. The witches found us. Silence crashed across the glowing bridge. And somewhere far beyond the hidden barriers, Mason stared toward the glowing, silver sky while madness slowly consumed what remained of him. She's here. Fiona smiled coldly beside him. Yes, dark magic curled through the frozen forest around them. Now we burn it all. Mason and Fiona. She's here. Mason's voice sounded savage beneath the storm. Far beyond the hidden Moonborn barriers, silver light still glowed faintly across the northern sky. Nyra, the alpha stared toward it like a starving beast finally finding prey again. Obsessed. Broken. The poisoned instinct ripped violently through him again. Fiona watched silently beside him while dark magic curled around pale fingers. The hidden barrier stood somewhere ahead beyond the frozen mountains. Invisible. Ancient. But not untouchable. Again, Fiona's cold voice echoed through the storm. The witches behind her immediately raised their hands. Dark magic exploded violently forward. Boom! The invisible barrier shook hard enough to crack the mountains beneath them. Silver light flashed across the sky instantly. Mason physically felt Nyra somewhere beyond it. Alive. Close. A broken growl tore from his chest. Pretty thing. Snowstorms erupted violently around him while claws sliced through frozen earth. Fiona's hood shifted slightly as she stared toward the glowing barrier. Moonborn magic was stronger than expected. Ancient symbols suddenly appeared across the sky above them. Silver. Glowing. Alive. The forest was fighting back. How annoying. Darkness surged violently around Fiona afterward. Black veins spread across pale skin, while witch fire exploded through the storm. Break it. The witches screamed spells together instantly. The barrier shook again. And again. Far beyond the forest, a terrifying roar suddenly ripped across the mountains hard enough to silence everyone instantly. Keller. Even the witches froze briefly. Fear spread through several immediately. The Lycan prince truly terrified kingdoms. Mason's expression twisted violently. Who the fuck is that? Fiona's eyes narrowed coldly. Trouble. Then suddenly, silver claws exploded from the storm itself. Blood sprayed instantly across the snow. A witch's head hit the frozen ground seconds later. Screaming erupted everywhere. Massive silver-black Lycan form tore through the battlefield like death itself. Keller. The monster prince moved impossibly, fast between witches while dark, blood-covered snow behind him. No hesitation. No mercy. Another roar shook the mountains violently. The barrier behind him glowed brighter, instantly responding to the attack. Protecting the forest. Protecting her. Mine. The possessive instinct inside Keller's beast surged uncontrollably. Mason watched the ancient prince rip another witch apart with growing rage. Something ugly twisted through his chest. Nyra was inside that forest. And now another monster guarded her. No! The savage refusal exploded from him instantly. She's mine. Mason shifted violently seconds later. Bones cracked through the storm, while his enormous wolf form burst forward toward the battle. And suddenly, two monsters collided beneath the frozen sky. Mason, the ancient monster, was impossible to kill. Mason slammed violently through frozen trees before barely twisting aside as Keller's massive claws ripped through the mountain behind him hard enough to shatter stone instantly. Blood covered the snow everywhere. Dead witches, broken bodies, dark magic. And still, Keller kept coming. Silver-grey eyes glowed murderously through the storm while the terrifying Lycan prince stalked toward him like death itself. No fear. No hesitation. Monster. Mason snarled violently before lunging again. Their bodies collided hard enough to shake the mountains beneath them. Claws, teeth, blood. Keller tore into his shoulder instantly. Pain exploded through Mason's body. The Alpha barely felt it anymore, because somewhere beyond the glowing barrier, Nyra waited. The obsession burned hotter than pain itself. Then suddenly, Fiona screamed. Now, dark magic exploded violently across the battlefield. Dozens of witches raised their hands together, while black fire slammed directly into the silver barrier surrounding the hidden forest. Boom! The entire mountain shook violently. Ancient silver light cracked across the sky. Keller instantly turned toward the barrier. Dangerous mistake. Witches attacked him immediately. Chains made from dark magic wrapped violently around the massive prince while black fire exploded across his body. The entire battlefield roared. Keller's furious scream shook the storm hard enough to make several witches collapse, instantly bleeding from their ears. Still, the attack slowed him. That single moment was enough. Crack, the silver barrier shattered. Moonlight exploded violently across the mountains. And suddenly, the hidden Moonborn forest appeared. Silver rivers, ancient glowing trees, moonlight everywhere. Beautiful. Mason froze instantly, because standing beneath silver light beyond the broken barrier was Nyra, alive, golden eyes locked directly onto her. The world stopped. Pretty thing. Emotion crashed violently through him hard enough to ache. Gods, she was beautiful. Silver power glowed softly beneath her skin now while moonlight wrapped around dark hair. Different. Stronger. But still his. Mine. Nyra's entire body froze the second she saw him. Fear flashed instantly across her face. The reaction destroyed something inside Mason immediately. No, not fear. Never fear. The Alpha slowly stepped toward her through the shattered barrier. Nyra! The broken whisper disappeared into the storm. Behind him, Keller ripped free from the witches with a roar filled with absolute murder. Too late. Because Mason only saw her now. Only her. Nyra. Mason. The name left me like a nightmare. Everything inside me froze the second golden. Eyes locked onto mine across the shattered barrier. Gods, he looked insane. Blood covered him. Snow clung to dark hair. Obsession burned so violently through his expression it barely looked human anymore. Pretty thing. The broken whisper nearly shattered me. The silver wolf inside me recoiled instantly. Not mine. Behind him, Keller tore through witches like death itself, while dark magic exploded across the battlefield. Screaming echoed everywhere. The hidden forest was under attack. And suddenly, more witches surged through the broken barrier directly toward Draven. Dark chains exploded around the Lycan king, instantly while black fire slammed violently into him. Draven. Rage exploded through the mate bond immediately. The terrifying king roared hard enough to shake the forest while claws ripped through 2 witches. Instantly. But there were too many. Dark magic wrapped around him again. Mason used the distraction immediately. He started walking toward me. Slowly. Like the battlefield around us no longer existed. Only me. No one touches her. Diana's voice exploded violently through the forest. Silver moonfire erupted from her hands, instantly slamming directly into Mason hard enough to throw him backward through the snow. The alpha crashed violently against ancient silver trees before growling savagely. Golden eyes snapped toward my mother immediately. Dangerous mistake. Because Moonborn magic exploded across the forest around Diana instantly. Ancient symbols glowed beneath her skin while silver fire surrounded her body. Queen. The realization visibly hit the witches around us too. Fear spread instantly. Diana stepped protectively in front of me and Nyra afterward. No one takes my daughters again. The quiet promise sounded terrifying. Mason slowly stood again, breathing heavily. But the moment his eyes returned to me, everything softened. Nyra. Gods. The way he said my name hurt. Like he truly believed part of me still belonged to him. You left me. Pain twisted violently across his face. I looked for you everywhere. The silver wolf inside me whimpered softly. Not from love. From grief. Because once, before darkness consumed him, Mason had been family. Then suddenly, Draven ripped free from the witches behind us with a roar filled with absolute fury. The mate bond slammed violently into me instantly. Mine. The terrifying Lycan king looked 1 second away from slaughtering everyone alive. Golden eyes locked directly onto Mason. And gods, murder filled them completely. Everything happened too fast. 1 second, Draven was tearing witches apart behind us. The next, Mason snapped completely. If I can't have you. The broken scream ripped violently through the battlefield. And suddenly, he lunged directly toward me. Fast. Too fast. I barely had time to react before massive claws wrapped around my body, violently dragging me backward through the snow. Nyra. Draven's roar shook the entire forest instantly. Mason ignored it completely. Golden eyes looked insane now. Wild. Broken. Terrified. Like he'd already lost everything. The alpha dragged me deeper into the burning forest while chaos exploded around us. No! I fought violently against him. Moonfire burst across my skin, instantly burning his arms. Mason barely reacted. Pain no longer mattered to him. Please. The broken whisper shocked me. His grip tightened desperately around me. Don't leave me again. Gods. Tears burned painfully behind my eyes. Because somewhere beneath the madness, part of the male I once knew still existed. But then his expression shifted again. Something darker. Something hopeless. If I can't keep you. Fear curled violently through me instantly. Mason's claws pressed shakily against my throat. Then nobody gets you. The world stopped. No, the silver wolf inside me recoiled violently. Not like this. Mason's breathing turned uneven afterward. Almost panicked. Like even he hated what he was becoming. But the obsession was stronger now. Broken completely. We'll leave together. The terrifying calm in his voice chilled me instantly. Another life. Golden eyes locked onto mine desperately. Just us. No. Horror crashed violently through me. He wanted to die. And take me with him. Mason. A violent sob almost escaped him. I tried to let you go. Pain twisted across his face. But I can't. The broken confession shattered through the battlefield. Then suddenly, silver moonfire exploded violently across the forest. Diana. My mother slammed directly into Mason hard enough to rip me from his arms instantly. Don't touch her. Ancient moonborn power erupted everywhere. Silver flames tore through trees while Glowing symbols exploded across the ground beneath us. Mason crashed violently backward, breathing heavily. And then Draven arrived. The terrifying Lycan king stepped from the burning forest, looking completely monstrous. Blood covered him, golden eyes glowing murderously, claws dripping dark magic and witch blood. Draven looked directly at Mason, and for the first time, real fear flashed across the Alpha's face. Because the Lycan king no longer looked merciful. He looked ready to kill. Draven. Mason touched her throat. The realization alone destroyed what little control remained inside me. The battlefield disappeared. The witches. The fire. The screaming. Nothing mattered anymore except the male standing too close to my mate. Mine. The possessive instinct exploded violently through my beast. Murder. Pure murder. Nyra's scent flooded the burning forest instantly. Fear, pain, moonfire, and Mason's scent wrapped around her. Wrong. Everything about it felt wrong. The Alpha slowly stood, across from me breathing unevenly, while blood poured from wounds covering his body. Broken male. Golden eyes still searched desperately for Nyra behind me. Obsessed. Draven. Nyra's soft voice barely reached me, because the beast inside me already decided. Kill him. Mason laughed suddenly. The sound felt unstable, almost hysterical. She was mine first. The words echoed through the burning forest softly. Dangerous mistake. The growl that left me sounded completely inhuman afterward. No. Golden eyes snapped toward mine instantly. For 1 second, something almost sane flickered across Mason's face. Pain, then obsession swallowed it again immediately. You stole her from me. I slowly stepped forward. Snow melted beneath my claws instantly. No. The mate bond pulsed violently between me and Nyra. She chose me. That finally broke him completely. Mason roared violently before charging straight toward me. Fast. Savage. The battlefield exploded again. Our bodies collided hard enough to destroy the ground beneath us instantly. Claws ripped flesh. Blood sprayed across burning snow. Mason fought like a dying male with nothing left to lose. Because he didn't, the Alpha slammed into me again with a broken scream filled with rage and grief. I loved her. Pain twisted through the words violently. Gods. For half a second, I almost pitied him. Almost. Then I remembered Nyra crying in my arms because of him. The pity died instantly. I grabbed Mason by the throat violently before slamming him hard against shattered silver stone. The Alpha coughed blood immediately. Golden eyes still searched desperately past me toward Nyra, still obsessed, still reaching for her. Pretty thing. The broken whisper shattered through the battlefield softly. Pathetic. Mason smiled weakly afterward. You think she won't leave you too? Silence. Then quietly, she already left me. The broken confession nearly sounded human again. For 1 terrible second, I saw the male Nyra once cared about. Then the madness returned instantly. Mason suddenly lunged for the blade at his side. Too fast. Too desperate. The Alpha turned sharply toward Nyra again. And the beast inside me finally snapped completely. I moved before he could breathe. Claws tore straight through his chest instantly. Silence crashed across the battlefield. Mason froze. Shock slowly filled golden eyes while blood spilled across the snow beneath him. The entire forest went still. The Alpha looked down weakly toward the claws buried inside his chest. Then slowly, toward me. And finally, toward Nyra. Gods, the obsession in his eyes never disappeared. Even dying. Wait for me. Blood slipped down his mouth. Pretty thing. Rage exploded violently through me again. I grabbed him harder. Golden eyes locked onto his completely. Cold. Merciless. The last thing you'll ever see in this world. My voice dropped dangerously quiet. Is me. Then I ripped his heart out. Lyra. Mason's death changed the battlefield instantly. Silence crashed violently through the burning forest after. Draven ripped the Alpha's heart free. Even the witches froze. Fear spread through them immediately. The Lycan King stood, motionless in the blood-covered snow while darkness practically rolled from his body. Monster. The realization hit Lyra instantly. Not evil. Not cruel. But terrifyingly powerful. And then, Fiona screamed. Take the second daughter. Everything exploded into chaos again. Dark magic slammed violently through the forest while witches rushed directly toward Lyra. Fear crashed through her instantly. Too fast. One witch grabbed her arm violently before black chains wrapped around her wrists. Pain exploded through Lyra's body. Moonborn magic recoiled beneath her skin. Lyra. Nyra's scream echoed through the battlefield. Diana unleashed silver fire. Too late. The witches dragged Lyra backward through burning trees while dark smoke swallowed the forest around them. Panic crushed through her chest violently. No. No, no, no. The silver streaks in her hair glowed wildly beneath moonlight. Moonborn magic reacted desperately around her. And suddenly, a roar shattered the entire forest. Everything stopped. Gods, the sound alone felt terrifying. The witches dragging Lyra froze instantly. Fear flooded their scent. Then suddenly, Keller exploded through the storm. Massive silver-black Lycan form tore through the battlefield like death itself. Blood-covered claws. Grey eyes glowing murderously. Pure destruction. The terrifying prince didn't even slow down. Bodies flew across the forest instantly. One witch lost her head. Another split apart beneath massive claws. Screaming echoed everywhere. Lyra couldn't breathe. Because this was the monster from her visions. The male kingdoms feared. And gods, he looked absolutely horrifying. Keller roared again while ripping dark chains apart like paper. The entire forest shook beneath him. Mine. The possessive instinct exploded violently from the beast. The witches understood immediately. Wrong target. Fiona appeared through black smoke afterward. Dark magic surged violently around her. The witch actually looked nervous now. You would destroy everything for one girl. Keller's massive body slowly turned toward her. Grey eyes glowing like death itself. And for the first time, Lyra realized something terrifying. The prince wasn't protecting the forest anymore. He was protecting her. Fiona attacked first. Dark magic exploded violently through the trees. Keller tore through it anyway. Monster. The word echoed through Lyra's mind again. But instead of fear, her heart ached. Because even covered in blood and rage, the terrifying prince still looked lonely somehow. Fiona screamed another spell. Too late. Keller reached her instantly. The kill was brutal. Fast. Savage. Merciless. Blood-covered silver flowers beneath moonlight. Then silence fell. The beast slowly turned afterward. Toward Lyra. And suddenly, Keller froze completely. Because now she could truly see him. Blood-covered. Monstrous. Terrifying. The Lycan prince slowly stepped backward. Like he already expected fear. Rejection. Gods. The realization shattered something painfully inside Lyra's chest. Her monster. The male from her visions. The male fate chose. Keller lowered his head slightly afterward, unable to even fully look at her. And Lyra understood instantly. He thought she feared him. No, never. Moonlight glowed brighter around Lyra's skin as she slowly walked toward him through the burning battlefield. Everyone watched silently. LYCAN'S. Moonborns. Warriors. No one moved. The terrifying prince remained perfectly still while Lyra finally reached him. Then softly, she touched his massive blood-covered hand. Keller physically froze. Silver eyes lifted slowly toward his glowing grey ones. "You belong to me." The quiet words shattered the silence completely. Emotion cracked softly through her voice. "And I belong to you." The bond snapped violently into place. "Keller, you belong to me." The words shattered him completely. Keller couldn't breathe. Moonlight exploded violently across the battlefield while the bond snapped into place, hard enough to feel like his soul split open. "Mine." The beast inside him roared instantly. Not rage this time. Relief. Overwhelming relief. Lyra stood directly before him, beneath silver moonlight, while blood still covered his claws. Beautiful. Gods, she was beautiful. And Keller looked like a monster dragged from hell itself. The Lycan prince physically stepped backward instinctively. No, she shouldn't touch him like this. Not after what she just witnessed. Bodies surrounded them. Blood-stained silver flowers. Fiona's corpse lay broken behind him. Monster. Keller knew exactly what he looked like. The terrifying prince slowly lowered his head, unable to fully meet Lyra's eyes. Because if she looked afraid, he honestly didn't know what remained of him afterward. Then suddenly, soft fingers touched his face. Keller froze instantly. Warm, gentle. The entire battlefield disappeared. Only she remained. Lyra slowly stepped closer until moonlight wrapped around both of them completely. Silver symbols glowed softly across her skin now. Ancient Moonborn magic. Goddess. The realization hit violently. Not metaphorically. Not poetically. Keller's Wolf genuinely saw her like something divine. Pure, sacred, untouchable. And somehow, still his. The terrifying prince finally looked directly into silver eyes. No fear. Gods, no fear. Instead, Lyra looked at him like she saw every violent broken part inside him. And chose him anyway. Mine. The beast dropped instantly beneath the bond. Submission. Worship. Keller fell to his knees before her without even realizing he moved. Shock exploded across the battlefield. Lycans froze. Warriors stared silently. Because Prince Keller bowed before no one. Not kings. Not death. Not gods. Yet now, the monster kingdom's feared knelt willingly before one female. Before his mate. Before his goddess. Keller slowly took Lyra's trembling hand before pressing a reverent kiss against her fingers. The action felt instinctive. Natural. Like every violent part of him existed only to worship her now. Moonlight exploded brighter across the forest instantly. And suddenly, every Lycan warrior behind Keller dropped to one knee at the exact same moment. The sound echoed across the ruined battlefield. One after another. An entire army bowing before the Moonborn princes. Silence wrapped around the forest afterward. Then quietly, Draven stepped beside Nyra while staring at Keller with open disbelief. The way he looks at her. The Lycan king almost sounded disturbed. Is genuinely terrifying. Nyra slowly dragged one hand across her face. Great. A low amused sound escaped Draven. Another monster found his weakness, but Keller barely heard them. Because Lyra still touched his face softly. And gods, for the first time in his entire life, the terrifying prince no longer felt alone. Nyra. The Moonborn forest slowly began healing. Silver magic drifted softly through the ancient trees while wounded warriors rested beside glowing rivers beneath moonlight. The war was finally over. For now, Moonborn healers moved quietly through the hidden kingdom, while silver flames sealed wounds and washed dark magic from the forest itself. Everything still smelled like smoke and blood. But life remained. And somehow, so did we. I stood beside one of the crystal rivers watching silver light move through the water while exhaustion settled heavily through my body. Warm arms slowly wrapped around my waist from behind. Mine, the mate bond pulsed softly. Draven buried his face against my hair quietly. Not speaking, just holding me. Like he still needed proof I survived. Honestly, part of me needed the same thing. The silver wolf beneath my skin relaxed slowly inside his arms. Across the glowing clearing nearby, Diana sat beside, Lyra beneath ancient silver trees while soft moonlight wrapped around them both. My chest tightened instantly. Mother, sister, family, gods. I still wasn't fully used to saying those words. Lyra laughed softly at something Diana whispered. The sound carried beautifully through the forest. And nearby, Keller immediately lifted his head toward her. The ancient prince stood near the edge of the clearing speaking quietly with several warriors. But the second Lyra laughed, his entire attention shifted. Like instinct itself reacted before thought. The bond. Gods, it was almost fascinating watching him try to hide how affected he was. Because Keller clearly had no idea what to do with emotions. At all. Lyra noticed too. Silver eyes slowly lifted toward him across the clearing. And immediately, Keller moved. Not toward her directly. Never obvious. But closer. Protective instinct pulling him near without realizing it. The silver wolf inside me practically purred with amusement. Draven noticed where I looked instantly. A low laugh escaped him quietly against my hair. He's losing his fucking mind. Keller remained terrifying even standing silently beneath moonlight. Blood still stained parts of silver-white hair. Scars marked pale skin. Grey eyes watched everything constantly. Monster prince. And yet, every few seconds, his gaze returned directly to Lyra, checking, watching, making sure she was safe. The terrifying part. Lyra secretly loved it. I could see it. The slight warmth touching her cheeks every time she caught him staring. The way her silver streaks glowed brighter whenever he stepped closer. Diana noticed too eventually. The older woman slowly looked between Lyra and Keller, before soft amusement crossed her face. Oh no. Lyra immediately narrowed her eyes. Mother. Draven almost choked trying not to laugh beside me. Traitor. Diana looked deeply entertained now. The terrifying prince worships you already. Heat exploded across Lyra's face instantly. Keller physically froze across the clearing. Gods, I'd never seen the ancient monster look uncomfortable before. It was incredible. Lyra looked horrified. Please stop talking. Diana absolutely did not stop talking. He looks at you like moonlight itself personally blessed him. Keller slowly turned away afterward like disappearing into another battlefield sounded preferable to this conversation. Draven actually laughed this time. A real laugh. And somehow, hearing it while silver moonlight covered the peaceful forest healed something quietly inside me. For the first time in forever, we weren't fighting. We were simply alive. Lyra, the Moonborn forest looked different after midnight. Quieter. Silver rivers glowed beneath moonlight, while soft mist drifted between ancient trees surrounding the hidden kingdom. Everyone finally slept. Everyone except Lyra. The bond refused to let her rest. Mine. The possessive feeling brushed constantly against her chest now. Warm. Protective. Keller. The terrifying prince lingered beneath her skin like moonlight itself. Gods. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him kneeling before her covered in blood beneath the burning forest. Monster. And somehow, the thought no longer frightened her. The realization alone should have terrified her more. Instead, heat rushed softly through her chest. Lyra quietly stepped onto the crystal balcony, overlooking the glowing river below. Cold silver wind moved through long dark hair. Peaceful. Then suddenly, the bond tightened sharply. Her heartbeat quickened immediately. Slow footsteps echoed softly behind her. Keller, the Lycan prince, stopped near the balcony entrance afterward. Keeping distance, moonlight spilled softly across silver white hair while grey eyes carefully avoided looking directly at her. Like even now, he still feared what she saw during the battle. Lyra slowly turned toward him fully. "You're staring again." Keller's expression didn't change. "I'm making sure you're alive." A soft laugh escaped her instantly. Gods, the male truly had no idea how to behave normally. Interesting warmth flickered briefly through grey eyes hearing her laugh. The bond pulsed constantly between them now. Heavy, alive, Keller slowly looked toward the glowing forest below. "I frightened you." The quiet roughness in his voice wrapped painfully around her chest. Lyra studied him silently beneath moonlight. The Lycan prince looked exhausted suddenly. Not physically, emotionally. Like centuries of loneliness still waited beneath all that terrifying strength. "No." Grey eyes lifted toward hers instantly. Finally, Lyra slowly stepped closer afterward. Moonlight brightened softly around them. The bond reacted. Keller physically stopped breathing. The terrifying prince truly became completely helpless near her. Lyra gently touched the scars across his throat again. Warm skin. Ancient scars. Her monster. "You looked angry." Keller's jaw tightened instantly. "They touched you." The raw possessiveness in those 3 words. The wolf inside him surged violently beneath the bond again. "Mine." Lyra stepped even closer afterward until moonlight wrapped around both of them completely. "You saved me." Keller looked away sharply. "I destroyed half the forest." A soft smile touched her lips instantly. "Only half." Grey eyes finally met hers again. And gods, the loneliness inside them hurt. The terrifying prince spoke quietly afterward. "You should fear males like me." Lyra's expression softened instantly. Too late. Silence wrapped around the balcony. Then suddenly, Keller slowly touched her face. Careful. Like he still couldn't believe she allowed him close. The touch felt almost reverent. Worship. The realization sent warmth through her entire body. "You look at me like I'm something sacred," Lyra whispered softly. Pain flickered briefly across Keller's face. "Because you are." Gods. The bond surged hotter instantly. Moonlight exploded brighter across the balcony around them. Keller slowly lowered his forehead against hers afterward. Finally, letting himself touch her fully. Warmth surrounded them instantly. Safe, fated, and then Lyra kissed him. Softly at first, almost unsure. But the second her lips touched his, Keller completely froze. Gods, the terrifying prince truly didn't expect her to choose him. The realization alone made the bond pulse violently hotter. Lyra kissed him deeper slowly, warm fingers sliding carefully into silver white hair. And suddenly, Keller broke. A rough, desperate sound escaped him before. Massive hands instantly pulled her against his chest. Mine. The possessive instinct nearly exploded through the bond. The kiss deepened immediately. Hungry. Reverent. Overwhelmed. Like Keller still couldn't believe something this beautiful truly belonged to him. Moonlight erupted brighter across the entire balcony around them. And somewhere deep inside the hidden forest, ancient moonborn magic awakened softly. Like fate itself approved. Final chapter. Far beyond the peaceful moonborn forest, past frozen mountains and ancient rivers, stood the kingdom of Velaris. Home of monsters. Home of Keller. The massive Lycan empire stretched endlessly beneath. Black skies while silver snow covered towering castles carved directly into dark mountains. Ancient, powerful, feared. Every kingdom whispered the same thing about Velaris. If war ever came, Pray the monster prince never joins it. Inside the black marble palace at the center of the empire, servants rushed silently through endless halls lined with silver fire and ancient, lichen banners. The prince was returning home. Excitement spread through the kingdom instantly. Because for years, nobles waited for the same thing. Prince Keller choosing his future queen. Inside one of the highest palace towers, a beautiful, lichen female stood before massive windows overlooking the storm outside. Long dark gold hair spilled across black silk, while diamonds glittered around pale skin. Elegant, deadly, obsessed, Lady Seraphine of Velaris slowly smiled at her reflection while servants prepared royal gowns behind her. The future queen. Everyone in Velaris already whispered it. Beautiful claws brushed softly across the ancient silver crown resting beside her. Soon, very soon, Prince Keller would finally return. And when he did, she fully intended to stand beside him on the throne of Velaris, no matter what stood in her way. Then suddenly, one nervous servant entered the chamber quickly. "My lady." Seraphine slowly turned. The female bowed immediately. "There are rumors from the Northern War." Golden eyes narrowed slightly. "What rumors?" The servant hesitated. Fear flickered briefly across her face. "They say the prince found his mate." Silence. Cold, terrifying silence. Then, Seraphine laughed softly. "Impossible. Keller didn't love, didn't belong to anyone." The terrifying prince barely tolerated most people breathing near him. "No." The quiet word echoed dangerously through the chamber. But the servant looked terrified now. "They say he bowed before her." Everything stopped. The silver goblet in Seraphine's hand cracked instantly beneath growing claws. "Impossible. Prince Keller never bowed to anyone." Slowly, the beautiful lichen female looked back toward the storm beyond the palace windows. And somewhere far away beneath silver moonlight, the monster prince held another female like she was something sacred. A moonborn goddess. Mine. The bond echoed violently through Keller's soul somewhere beyond the mountains. And for the first time in centuries, the terrifying prince no longer belonged to Velaris alone. He belonged to her. The question now was, what would happen when the kingdom of monsters discovered their prince had fallen to his knees for a goddess?